8th meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. This meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference. Please be patient. We'll do our best to be efficient and allow everyone to participate equitably. This meeting is also being broadcast and streamed online by FCTV in real time. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be aware of what you say, how you say it, what can be seen and heard in your background. The chair recognizes the attendance of all our staff members, Jen, Kevin, Alyssa, Amy, and our recording secretary, Susan, of course. Thank you guys for all your support. We also recognize a full vote of commissioners. However, we are short one, as you know, so for the record, the appointed alternate for tonight is Mr. Gurney. To the commissioners for commenting, I'll call on each of you at the appropriate time so we don't step over each other. And I'll remind you all votes are done by roll call. So when I call your name, state your name and your vote, even if you've made the motion or the second. To our public participants, there will be an opportunity for public comment for each hearing. If you'd like to comment on a particular hearing, you may submit any comments or questions via the chat function once that hearing has been opened. At the appropriate time, I'll call for public comments and any submissions will be read into the record. The link and further instructions are posted on the agenda. So tonight, first item is going to be executive session. So we will be going into executive session for the purposes of discussing litigation with Holcomb versus Conservation. The public portion of the meeting will reconvene after the executive session. So I will entertain a motion and a second to go into executive session.
Carlo Hawks motion to go into executive session.
Bird second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Betsy?
Untitled aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Mark?
Bird, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve? Steve, I didn't hear. Thank you. Okay, we are going into executive session. IT, please stop recording.
Thomas, can you make me a co-host, please? No, there we go.
Is everybody back?
I'm trying to get Maury in.
Susan back?
Not yet. Where's Maury? Thomas, can you try to promote Maury? I'm having problems.
Susan's back.
I tried Maury twice as well, Jen, and couldn't get her in.
I can't get her in.
Is she
Thomas
there?
will.
I can see her in the panelist list, I mean, the attendees list.
Maybe you should call her and have her try again.
Since I assume Artie's probably helping her, try leaving and coming back in because I can't get you up either.
Yeah, I know. She's gonna leave and try again. Down here. There she is.
She in?
She's in.
Shave my beard. I'm all set.
Okay, IT, would you start recording, please? Thank you. We are back in public session. Welcome back, everyone. First order of business, vote minutes, October 21, 2020. Anybody?
I read the minutes and they seemed to, they were in order. Harlow Hawks.
Gladfelter second. I only have one comment to Susan, and all the time she's written my name, she's only misspelled my last name once. And I hate it when I do it. So good for her. People will know what she meant.
I have a slight tweak on the page 18.
Have you sent it in?
I have sent it in to Susan. Do you want me to read it or just, I've submitted it to Susan.
Okay.
That's good. So the motion in a second is to accept the corrected minutes. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Ernie, aye.
Maury,
Harlow Hawks, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. The minutes are accepted. Thank you. Next up, request for a continuance under a notice of intent. Karen and David Howe, 0 Vineyard Street, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to implement a beach management plan that includes beach raking and beach nourishment above the spring high tide line. Jen? Or Kevin? Holding.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until November 4th.
At the request of the applicant, we will continue this to November 4th, Harlow Hawks.
Gladfelter, second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second to continue this hearing until November 4th. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Mark?
Ernie, aye.
Maury?
Harlow Hawks, aye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. This hearing is continued until November 4th. Next up, Stephen Ballas, 64 Muskego Road, East Falmouth, Mass. for permission to install a 4 by 25 foot float adjacent to an existing licensed concrete bulkhead and to replace the existing timber access stairs. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until November 18th.
That's a
So
request.
moved. Gladfelter,
Patton, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue this hearing till November 18th. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Mark?
Ernie, aye.
Maury?
Fellow Hawks Eye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. This hearing is continued till November 18th. Next up. I'm sorry, another continuance under a notice of intent. Michael Cachadorian, 50 Muskego Road, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to install a float adjacent to an existing licensed concrete bulkhead. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until November 18th.
Bird, so moved.
Gladfelter, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue this until 11:18. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Mark?
Ernie, aye.
Maury?
Fellow Hawks Eye.
Yeah.
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. This hearing is continued until November 18th. Next up, requests for determination of applicability. First up, Carol Efron Flyer, 55 Moonpenny Lane, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to reconstruct an existing deck within the existing footprint. Mr. Newton?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Staff recommends a -2 under the state, -3 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so moved.
Fellow Hawks second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Mark?
Ernie, aye.
Maury?
Fellow Hawks Eye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Stephen and Joan Feist, 64 Squibnocket Drive, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to upgrade to a new Title V sewage disposal system with no increase in design flow. Kevin?
Mr. Chairman, staff recommends a -2 under the state and a -3 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so moved.
Fellow Hawks second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Mark?
Ernie, aye.
Maury?
Fellow Hawks Eye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Colonial Gas Company, DBA National Grid, 24 and 30 Hawthorne Court, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to extend the existing gas main and to install 2 new service connections. Kevin?
Mr. Chairman, staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so moved.
Fellow
Gladfelter, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Mark?
Ernie, aye.
Maury?
Fellow Hawks Eye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Eric Anderson, 15 North Bourns Pond Road, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct and maintain an addition and attached garage, to relocate the existing AC and generator units, to install a new shell driveway with a trench drain, to install mitigation plantings, and to upgrade to a new Title V sewage disposal system with no increase in design flow. Kevin?
Mr. Chairman, staff recommends a -2 under the state and a -3 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move. And a question. Why wouldn't this rise to a level of a notice?
This one, Courtney, is the majority of the project is located outside of your jurisdiction. There's a
Good.
small corner that's within it.
Okay, thank you.
Gladfelter, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, I.
Mark?
Rooney, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, John H. Kelman and Pamela Douglas Kelman, 29 Pondlet Place, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct and maintain a covered porch and to remove and reset the existing septic tank to allow for construction of the covered porch. Kevin?
Mr. Chairman, staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Gladfelter, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, I.
Mark?
Rooney, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Andrew and Joy McDonald, 67 BB Acres Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to remove an existing deck and to construct a brick patio and screen porch with expansion of a small deck and basement entry. Kevin?
Mr. Chairman, staff recommends a -2 under state and a -3 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
So moved. Gladfelter.
Walsh, second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, I.
Mark?
Rooney, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Arlene Schubert, 239 Edgewater Drive East, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to install a new Title V subsurface sewage disposal system. Kevin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Gladfelter, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, I.
Mark?
Rooney, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Frank Perot, 513 Courier Road, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct an addition within the footprint of an existing deck. Kevin?
Mr. Chairman, staff recommends a -2 under the state and -3 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Gladfelter, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Gurney, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks eye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
And I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, James McLaughlin, Town of Falmouth, 630 Walk Point Highway, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to demolish an existing dwelling previously damaged by fire. Kevin,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Walsh,
second.
okay, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Gurney, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks eye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
And I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, requests for hearing under notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. First up, William and Elizabeth Houlihan, 352 Sippowisset Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to install mitigation plantings required under a previous order of conditions to restore an illegally cleared area of buffer vegetation and to remove an unpermitted patio. And bear with me, Jen, this is the one you want to open simultaneously with?
The enforcement order for the same property.
Okay, so let me read that. So again, we're going to open simultaneously the enforcement order for the same address, unpermitted removal of vegetation and construction of patio within conservation jurisdiction. Jen, you want to start?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've promoted Wayne Tavares up to present the project for the applicant. Just to give the board a little bit of background, the reason when I discussed this with council, they wanted us to vote to hear the project under a notice of intent, but also vote an enforcement order because the property is currently for sale. And the staff feels that the restoration effort should take place immediately and not within a 3-year time period given under an order of conditions. So that is why you're hearing it under under both the notice of intent and the enforcement.
Okay, Wayne, you're jumping the gun. Back off for a second.
Okay, sorry.
Jen, so we're just gonna have to make sure that whatever, what our vote is gonna be, you know, it's clear what we're,
Correct.
you know, just to say it. All right, are we ready for Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
Mr. Tavares, please proceed. Thank you.
Good evening, how are you? I want to present this project and I hope I can bring up the necessary files for it. We have a client who is selling their house and it's been recognized that there's a few issues. Is that being shared?
Yes.
Okay, great. This is an original plan that was done some 24 years ago, so we're way behind the 8 ball as far as
Wayne?
timing. Yes.
We only see your file screens. We don't see a plan.
Oh. I don't know what, I'm looking at it. I just haven't learned how to get these going. Kevin, I gave you a group of plans. Maybe you can help. Can you get that grouping that I gave you. That was just in the event I couldn't get these plans up.
Hi, Wayne. So if you have it open, when you hit share screen, you should see the PDF option for that program you have open.
Yeah.
There
There
you
you
go.
are.
Again.
Really? Okay. Great. So 24 years ago, I helped the Houlihan's with a plan. And they wanted a little bit more. Their children were young. They wanted a backyard. So they came in and they did another notice of intent for this plan that you're seeing in front of you. And they did it all kosher. They also built a patio because their children wanted a place to play. Patio has been deemed illegal. And as you see, it doesn't occur on this plan. So trying to move this forward, what happened is after the kids grew out of the backyard play area that they had, the plants that were here were not chosen so wisely, as you can see from the north arrow, and they all slowly died, especially the heaths and heathers, and they died all the way back. And the owners just let them go, and the whole bed is barren. It was planted originally. So nothing is left there now. When I was speaking with Jen and we had a conference, a Zoom conference online, Jen wanted this put back as close as possible to the original. I went out and I scoured the countryside for the plants. This is not the time of the year for getting plants. However, I did get a great deal of great plants, and I have a subsequent plan to replicate this in both area and type. Let me see if I can promote this new plan up. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is the plan I came up with. These plants are available. The owners are motivated to get this done. We're planning on doing this in the next 10 days with the approval of this board. So the two issues above this retaining wall, my arrow showing up?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the bed in question. All these plants are now available and they can be planted. And we'd like to do that in the next 10 days. After this meeting, I'll call up the supplier and order them and get them in the ground. We're also taking up this patio, removing it, loaming it, and seeding it so that it goes back to the original approved lawn area that was in the backyard. So this list of plants coincides with a great deal of the plants that were originally planned with no heaths and heathers. I also had a sheet of plants that are in the shade. This is a very shady area. As you can see, the sun comes up and goes across from east to west and shadows this entire backyard. So these are all shade tolerant plants, guaranteed to be good. And some of the staff report, there was a report to lift up the black plastic that was planted originally. That's still there. We will, of course, remove that. We're going to keep in size and shape with this whole project. We have the sizes listed. We have the quantities listed. And there was a couple of typos in that was also picked up in the staff report. And I'll have to redo this plan, of course, but it comes out to 206 plants when all the dust settles on the few minor mistakes that was done here. At the same time, this violation that came up is in this area. Through here, this has all been cleared. The owner suffers from poison ivy and wanted to clear poison ivy, and the project got a little bit too involved. I'll just say it that way. They are entitled to a path. This is a 4-foot path that leads down to the BBW, which I have also flagged, that leads to Miles Pond. So in this area that was cleared, we are putting plants in here of 4 different types of plants, from blueberries to winterberry to viburnum, and a large share of clethra. I did research here as if it was a wetland, and I identified all the plants, took all the percentages, and you can see them here. That's how we arrived at all this types of plants. And we have an area to the right of the path, which is 726 square feet. We have an area to the left of the path that is 1,497 square feet. The area was cleared but not turned over, so there's no barren turf as there is in this bed up here, or barren, I should say, soil. There's a humus layer that was left, and there's plenty of plants that are emerging from this. So we are suggesting a 6-foot on-center planting on both sides of the path to fill this area. There are 65 plants in this area, and we deem that sufficient. That's the old code of these type of plants, viburnum, blueberry, just to reiterate, they should be planted 6 foot on center because they grow that wide. Anything less than that would be egregious in my book. So that's the project. We have a plant list down below that was the original plant list and my plant list up above for comparison's sake. And I did have some feedback from staff, but I'll let staff talk about it as it goes. But that's my approach. We would very much like to get an approval tonight because I can get on the phone, order these plants. They'll be here Friday of next week and planted over the weekend. So in 10 days, they can be in the ground and this problem can be solved to the owner's satisfaction and also, of course, to the seller and hopefully conservation satisfaction. Thank you. Any questions? I'd be glad to answer them.
Okay. Thank you, Wayne. Please stop sharing. And to be clear, if we close this hearing, it doesn't necessarily issue an order of conditions, so. Jen, do you want to start?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'm trying to pull something up real quick. Pretty much covers it. When we went out there, when Kevin went out there to do the certificate of compliance, site visit, we noticed the violation and the patio. So I think this plan, I like the planting plan for the mitigation plantings that were approved. It's an improvement. Staff's recommendation was just, follow the same plant list if the applicant wanted to, because that was previously approved by this board. I think this is a much better plant list for the mitigation area, so that's nice to see. They are are proposing to remove the patio, so that is great. I am a little, it's nice to see that the natives are being planted back in the area that was cleared without the permit, although I disagree with Wayne on the planting spacing. Sweet pepper bush should be planted, we usually plant 3 feet on center. We can get away with 4 feet on center. 4 feet on center would allow about 160 shrubs to be put in that area, which I think is far more appropriate than what is being proposed. It is a violation. That's why there is an enforcement component to this hearing. There's a separate enforcement hearing we're hearing right now. So this is an enforcement hearing as well. And so we would like to see that planted a little bit more densely. And those plants should be installed within 2 weeks of the issuance of your enforcement orders. That's why we have the enforcement order component to this, is so that we can make sure that these plants are planted in almost immediately and that they're monitored over a 3-year period. And I think that's all, unless Kevin has anything else to add.
No, I mean, that pretty much sums it up. Went out there for a compliance review and was surprised to see what I saw. So that's where we are.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, may I?
I do have one quick question. Which species of blueberry are you proposing?
Just Vaccinium corymbosa, no varieties, just straight blueberry.
Straight high bush blueberry? Okay.
Yeah, everything is straight, no varieties here at all. It's just
Great.
species.
These are high bush berries?
Yes.
High bush, not low bush, yes. Hi, Bush.
Thank you.
And I just want to say that time is growing short as far as the planting. Again, owners obviously are motivated. We'd like to do the planting, and I'm asking the board as far as the risk stage. Jamie mentioned the actual order of conditions, timing. The violation is going to take another sort of a sidetrack to this issue. But if we were to go with the upper patio removal and the upper bed, it sounds like that's a given. The lower area, if we went with a 4-foot, I'm not agreeing with that, but we want to move this along. We need a redesign of the plan. Is that true?
Correct. I'd like to see a plan with 4 foot on center spacing between the plants. And I think that if it's worded correctly, we could close this hearing, Mr. Chairman, and move this along.
Fair enough.
Very specific that we're going to require the restoration area to be planted with species in a 4-foot on center pattern.
I need a clarification. This would all, to be able to do this, he could do this right away if we approve the enforcement order. Is that the?
Well, we'd have to issue the enforcement order, Courtney, and we couldn't do that. I mean, usually, you could vote to issue the enforcement order tonight, I suppose. I said, and we could write that up and process that paperwork, but you will have to vote your order of conditions next week. But that can be secondary. You could Courtney, you could vote the enforcement order this evening with the condition that prior to any work, a revised plan be submitted for the restoration area showing the did I lose someone again? Is Maury there?
Maury left.
Okay, she says she's offline. Is she trying to get back in? So we could issue that as well. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Noticed Maury was gone. And so revised plan, 4 feet on center spacing, planting within 2 weeks of the receipt of the enforcement order. And then you can do the order of conditions so the planting, the original buffer planting can be approved under the order of conditions, the original buffer. So that's fine.
Okay, there was one other missing thing that has been forgotten.
Oh, in the patio, sorry.
Yeah, and the survey, you were requiring a new survey. Is that still on the table?
I was requiring a surveying stamp, a PLS stamp, Wayne.
But not the survey? PLS
I
stamp.
think what she meant was your stamp needs to be stamped by a
Oh, okay,
professional
you mean
land
my plan.
surveyor.
Okay, my plan, all right.
As
fine.
long as your plan, as long as you can have one, who you work with stamp your plan, that's fine. Quick question, Wayne, you said you worked with the Houlihan's on their original order of conditions?
Yes.
Was there any lawn that was allowed? Let me see if I can't see that. Could you bring that old plan back up?
Sure, I think I can do that.
Was there any lawn allowed between the house and the pond in that original order?
Yeah, there were steps though. What happened is in order for their children to be able to play, they went with an amendment. This plan, if I can bring it up, is an amended, and that's the new one.
No, that's your plan.
Yeah, that's my plan. I'm trying to figure out how to work this thing here. Oh, I see. That's the way. How's that? Can you see that?
No,
No, we
you're
still-
back.
yeah.
to-
Open the plan.
Open it, just click on it.
I did. Here's the plan. How's that?
There we go.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, does it say,
This plan was done by others. What happened is my plan in here came with steps coming out the back because the drop was so much. They wanted a place to play, with the children to play. So a secondary plan came along. This is an amended plan that came afterwards, so that the area was level. This wall that you see just above the north arrow was built in order to create an elevated area. And that was what was allowed under the amendment. And the mitigation for that was this planting bed that we talked about, that we just
no, what I'm
replicated.
asking was, does that plan depict lawn between the house and the pond? The house and that planting bed?
And the original plan, I'm not sure. I don't have access to it, I don't think.
This plan does though, Wayne, and this was amended and this is the plan of record. So I think
That's right. I would say this supersedes the.
I can see it right
Yeah.
there.
Exactly.
Okay, so this is an amended plan that allowed lawn. Does it say that on there? I can't tell.
It does. It says proposed lawn. There's an arrow pointing one way and an arrow pointing the other, directly in the middle of
Perfect.
that area.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you.
Yeah, required lot. Yeah, right in the middle. Want me to stop the share?
Yes, please, Ben. All right, thank you.
Okay, so you need a stamp on my plan, which is for me.
Correct.
Okay, just my stamp is sufficient.
No, a PLS stamp on yours.
Okay,
And then I would like the revised plan with the 4-foot center spacing.
mhm.
And you have a note that the patio is being removed. So Mr. Chairman, if you want to close someone wants to make the motion to close the notice of intent hearing, that's great. And then for the enforcement hearing, a vote to issue an enforcement order with the revised 4-foot spacing plan 2 week after the receipt of the enforcement order to install the plantings and have a 3-year monitoring component to it.
I'll make a
Okay.
motion,
We
I'll
need
make a motion to
a
close the
vote.
notice. Notice
We
of
want-
it. And also to vote an enforcement plan that includes, Jen, help
Betsy,
me.
do them separately, please.
Right, so I'll
Yeah.
make a motion to close this
Close the notice of intent.
notice and take it under advisement.
Bird,
Thank you.
second.
All right. Does anybody want to comment on this? Everybody's kind of jumping ahead here.
And can I ask a question? My question is the risk of planting this ahead of any of the administrative paperwork that we're talking about. I'm looking for an opinion, I guess, of the board, because the owners want to perform. And at the same time, we don't want any changes. Once that many plants are planted in the ground, we have now gone up to over 300 plants. We don't want any changes. So we want to have security and the feeling that what is closed tonight will be followed like night follows day, that we don't have a problem with going ahead with planting. It's not structural, that's the good news, but at the same time, it's a lot of work to have to redo or undo.
Actually, Wayne, we can't close the hearing. I was just reminded by staff, we don't have a DEP number for this hearing.
Right, because we put it on so quick, they haven't responded yet.
So we'll have to, we can continue this hearing until next week. And if you want to call DEP to have them issue
I
you
will
a
do
file number, that would be great.
I will do that. I called them today, I couldn't get through, so,
Can I-
okay.
Can I interrupt?
Well,
Jen, if we're going to vote for the enforcement hearing regardless, correct?
Correct,
Well, that's going to allow him to start his planting anyway, correct?
correct.
So Wayne, you need,
It will
just-
allow the planting in the
Wait.
restoration area.
Mr. Chair. So procedurally, at this point, I will withdraw my second Betsy will withdraw her first. And then we will have a motion to continue and a second and a vote. Is that correct? And then we will have a motion to vote the enforcement order.
I make a motion to continue to November 4th.
Okay.
Walsh,
And the
second.
recommendation for the planting, I just need to know that. We'd like to go forward.
Wait a
All-
second, Wayne. Let's
Hey.
just do this continuance.
So first, we got to withdraw the initial motion. Which has been seconded. So I'll withdraw my second. You got to withdraw your first.
Well, I withdraw my first and I make a motion to continue.
And I'll second it.
Jen, is the 4th available?
It'll be fine.
Okay. So again, I'm going to ask if anybody has any comments or questions, since all the other chairmen have seemed to kind of jumped around. All right. So I'm going to call for the vote to continue this to 11/4 to get a DEP number and Wayne, just make sure you understand what Jen's looking for on the revised plan. And also on the revised plan, if you would, get rid of the word proposed on the house. Please.
Get rid
Right,
of the,
motion.
word what? I'm sorry, Jamie, I missed that. Get rid of the word
On
proposed.
your plan, it says proposed house.
Oh, yeah, okay, thank you. Okay.
We have a motion. and a
I
second.
need
Continue this to
one
11.
more thing here. No surveyor is going to stamp my plan on a 24-year-old survey plan. So how do I remedy that? And I'm asking you, I'm an askance, because at one time you mandated a new plan and we're working hard on that. Hasn't started yet. So I'm asking how to remedy that while I've got you all in front of me.
It'd have to be surveyed.
Has to be surveyed, Wayne. If the
Okay.
surveyor's not gonna stamp your plan, you'll need a surveyed plan. You know that we require a professional land surveyor stamp on all to be submitted
That's right.
with all applications.
That's right. That's right.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
We did not cause this.
All
I
right,
know.
moving on. We have a motion and a second to continue until 11/4 without further interruption. I'm going to take a vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Green, aye.
Maury. We lost Maury, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve,
Patton, aye.
Jen, are there any public comments, questions?
No.
Okay, it is unanimous. This hearing is continued until 11/4. Let's go back to the enforcement order.
Jen, I'm back.
Hi, Maury.
So the enforcement order, we want to issue an enforcement order for this and that'll allow him to start planting that section, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Does anybody have any comments on that? Okay. I'll entertain a motion in a second.
Just to
Go ahead.
Betsy, make sure you clarify the plan and the spacing.
I'm gonna ask you, I'll make a motion, to issue an enforcement order that includes 3 things. Which are, Jen?
Planting within 2 weeks of the issuance of the enforcement order. Wayne, get me a new plan from you with the 4-foot spacing requirement in the restoration area. And we are going to add a monitoring component to that and have the restoration area monitored over a 3-year period.
One
you.
other item, removal of the patio.
Oh, and removal of the patio. Thank you, Courtney.
Yeah, so that all should be done within 2 weeks.
Correct.
Wayne, you clear on that?
Everything clear as a bell.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have a motion on the table to issue the enforcement order. Do we have a second?
Second, Bird second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to issue the enforcement order. Betsy,
Gladfelder, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin. Kevin O'Brien,
Kevin,
Yeah.
Think
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Goody, aye.
Maury,
I didn't hear enough of the hearing to be involved.
fair enough. Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve,
Aye.
it is unanimous. The enforcement order has been issued. Thank you, Wayne.
Okay, thanks. Everybody have a good night. Stay safe.
You as well.
Thank you, Wayne.
Yes.
All right. Next up. I have this right? I do. Terrence J. and Margaret N. Forster, 37 Beckles Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to demolish the existing single-family dwelling and to construct a new single-family dwelling with walkways, a sunroom, front entry porch, underground wire utilities, water service, AC units, generator, paved driveway, and parking, outdoor rinse station, mitigation plantings, and other appurtenances, and to upgrade to a new Title V septic system. Then,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Tom Bunker up, I believe it's Tom Bunker, yes, Tom Bunker up to present the project for the applicant. Hi, Tom. Is there anybody else in your project team? Tom?
Do you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
Tom.
Can you hear?
yes,
It's Jeff.
Oh, hi, Jeff. Yes, we can hear you, Jeff.
All right.
Jeff, is there anybody else on your project team you would like me to promote up for this hearing?
Hold on a second. I have Dan Celine,
Okay,
landscape
I'll promote
architect,
Dan up.
working on this.
I'm promoting Dan up for you, Jeff.
Okay. I did sign in as my name, but I don't know. I guess it has a problem.
It says Tom's name, but that's okay. Just clarify for the record that it's you. Hello, Dan.
That Dan with a mustache? What do we got there? I can't hear Dan.
That's because he's muted.
Can we unmute him?
Yeah, I'm unmuted now, I believe.
Yes.
Okay, we all set?
yes, please proceed.
All right. Good evening. I'm Jeff Ryther with BSS Design, representing the Foresters. They're at 37 Beckles Road in Sipwisset. And I already mentioned Dan is here. We do have a DEP number if you need it. But just let me know.
We have it.
Got it? Okay. So the applicants wish here to demolish their existing house, the 5-bedroom, single-family house, and in its place, construct a new single-family house.
Jeff, do you have a plan to share?
Sure, I think. Do you see something now?
No,
No, you know what, Jeff? You want me to share it for you?
If you have it, sure.
Yeah, okay, give me 1 sec. I'll get it.
It shows up here, but I don't.
It's okay. Let me get it for you real quick.
I've sort of lost my whole screen here for a minute. Not sure what to do.
I got you covered, Jeff. Don't worry.
All right.
Veterans house reconstruction. 1 second, Mr. Chairman.
Real quick.
I'm working on it. Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna share my screen for Jeff.
Okay,
You all see that?
yes.
Okay,
Yes.
excellent.
I don't see it.
You don't see that, Jeff?
No, I just have recommended tools for you, and I don't know why it went to the screen.
Jeff, on the bottom of your screen, press the blue camera button.
Is that the one?
I can't see your screen, but it's going to be a blue square with a white camera.
Yeah, it popped up there for a minute, but then it ducked away again. Unless I keep my mouse
You just have to,
arrow
you have
on
to
the-
click on that.
Pardon?
You'll have to click on it so it brings it up.
All right. How we doing?
Well, Jeff, I think the board.
Everybody see that now?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I'll pick up. So I was at the wetland resource areas on the site. Do you see my arrow okay?
And we still have your screen up.
Okay,
Well, I think that's Jeff's plan anyway. So if
That
he can
is.
see it.
You can't see your arrow.
I see it.
This one, we do have a revision of this plan, but it's very similar.
do you want me, Jeff, do you want me to stop sharing my screen so you can share yours? Because,
So
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's going on with mine, but I can.
all right, Jeff, I'm gonna try it again, okay?
Jeff, did you hit share screen?
I thought he was trying to share his as well. Jeff, I'm going to share my screen and then I have the October 20th revision date, okay?
Okay,
And then you can just kind of present the plan as, so the board's looking at your October 20th revision.
here it is. Okay. Thank you.
Not a problem.
All right, so I was talking about the resource areas on the site, and we have land under the ocean, which is Buzzards Bay. We have the coastal beach down at the toe of the slope, coastal bank, and land is subject to coastal storm flowage. And also the resource area buffer. And that's 100 feet in from the top of the coastal bank. So again, the project is to demo the existing house and put this footprint. When I say this footprint, I'm pointing to the house. Is that, everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No.
So we're doing that on this footprint. And driveway is going to be similar, except we're going to have a loop driveway that comes back out to Beckles Road. I mentioned Dan Celine. Dan's going to do some mitigation. We have an increase in area in the B buffer. And we did a calculation for that, and we have about 3,000 or 3,400 or so square feet of mitigation to be planted down at the toe of the not the toe of the bank, but the toe of the slope that this house is on. And you'll see the mitigation across the sheet at the the base of the hill. And Dan will cover most of that coming up. We have a limit of work shown along the lot line down to where we planted just recently under the other notice and back up the other lot line. So that's our limit of work. We have some walls on the backyard here to break up the slope a little bit, add some aesthetics here. And you'll see new wall over on the other side over on the east side of the lot. What else? We have a septic system currently about where the garage is, and we're going to put it now across the loop of the driveway, about as far away from the wetlands and resource areas as possible. The proposed grading, Dan discussed that. That's done by Horiichi Saline Landscape Architects, and it marries into the mitigation as well. Let's see. There was a little speck of down. Do you see the arrow again? I know I asked that too many times, but there's a little bit of patio area down here that's going to be taken out in this. I guess the staff picked up on a little glitch we have. And that's it. On page 3 of this, you'll see the soil type and so forth. And here we're going to have to do a strip out, and there is some sand on the base of the test holes. So that'll about sum it up. I'll let Dan take over, and I'm not sure you have his PDF or not, but I think he's got it. Is that correct, Jennifer?
Yeah.
Okay, Jeff, do you want me to stop sharing the screen now? Are you all set with your part of the presentation?
Yeah, I don't know if you want Dan to speak now or after.
Yeah. Well, yes. I'm Dan Saline, landscape architect, Horiichi Saline Landscape Architects. I guess I can try to open my plan on my screen, or Jennifer, you can do it on yours. You may do it more efficiently.
It's up to you, Dan.
Why don't you go ahead? I guess maybe the only thing I lose is the ability to drag an arrow around. You know.
I can drag the little hand around like I did the last.
Okay, all right.
Let's see if I can get this. Oh. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to share my screen for the board that shows Dan's plan, I think. Can you all see that?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Not a problem, Dan.
Okay, well, I think that Jeff's description. Jeff has probably sufficiently described the general project. The loop drive, the location of the house. The location of the house is essentially, on the footprint of the existing house. It's a little bit deeper, so it extends, further into the site than the existing house. An important, point here, which will affect some discussion later on about, building and grading, is that we're dealing here with mobility, needs or limitations. So amongst our client group, and therefore we are trying to provide a level surface around the house, so that one can negotiate, the entire, property, at least in the vicinity of the house. So as opposed to the existing house, this site, by the way, slopes about more than 20 feet vertically, from the southeast corner to you know, what southwest corner, northeast corner to the southwest corner is probably 20 to 25 foot will change. So you know, this is a project that involves fill. There's really no opportunity here to, you know, to cut, you know, much because of just the nature of the topography. So anyway, let me get back to that later. I wanted to just discuss the mitigation plantings. As Jeff mentioned, his plan includes the calculations, the tabulation of the mitigation plantings, which are, you know, extensive. We're providing 3,369 square feet of mitigation, and in the plan, it's the diagonally hatched area, the diagonal hatch that's over the planting circles. It's a little bit hard to see, but it sort of surrounds the lawn area, the sloped lawn area on the east, the north, and sort of traveling over to the westerly property line. Okay, so that's 3,369 square feet of native plants, including Virginia rose, bayberry, blueberry, beech plum, arrowwood, and sweet fern. I know that staff has an issue with the sweet fern. I'll get back to that shortly. Also, we're providing additional trees. Here we're showing 5 cedar. Well, actually, we're showing 3 cedars in the mitigation planting area. Okay, so in addition to native plants in the mitigation area, what we have here, of course, we have an area that was some mitigation plantings that were installed in conjunction with the beach steps. There you go, follow the hand. So that's about 500 square feet of mitigation that was planted earlier this fall. And then outside of the mitigation, or in addition to the mitigation area, just for design reasons, I'm providing or planting another 1,150 square feet of native plants sort of below the round walls, below the circular walls on the westerly property line. So
In here,
down there.
Dan?
Yeah, no, over to the left of that, Jennifer, where you've got the big tree symbols.
Oh, okay.
There you go. So
Yeah.
so that area.
Oh, yeah, right in here.
Yeah, that area is outside of mitigation, but is you know, I think it just makes sense for it to be an extension of mitigation area as a native planting zone. So it's in the B zone. And then we're also looking to restore an area that is out on the coast, near the coastal bank, on the upper left-hand corner of the plan, Jennifer, which is seaward of the mitigation plantings, but it's an area that's really choked by, you know, invasive plants, you know, the typical, you know, culprits, and with a couple of sassafras, you know, amongst them. So our proposal is to preserve the sassafras and grub out the invasive plants and plant additional native plants in that area as well. So just to do the math here, I mean, when you add up all of these, the native planting areas, it comes to, you know, 6,085 square feet of native planting. And then we planted 500 square feet for the beach there. So I mean, this is a pretty, you know, pretty unique project. You know, I would say it's over 6,600 square feet of native planting area. 3,369 of that is accomplished by reducing lawn or eliminating lawn. So we're pretty proud of this. So I guess you know, at this point, I mean, we have, of course, ornamental plantings, you know, in the buffer area in the B zone that are all up around the house, you know, all basically on the house side of the walls and in and amongst the foundation planting zones, and those are, sort of typical ornamental plants for our area, junipers, roses, hydrangeas, Russian sage, maybe some nepeta, those plants. So those are shown, but everything below the walls is native. So let's see. Let me cover a few comments related to the staff observations and maybe other things. I wanted to talk a little bit about the schedule and our approach to the construction. As you can see, there's a lot of work that's going to be going on, north of the house, on the back slope and all the mitigation plantings and such, as well as hardscape to the rear of the house. The house, because the house stretches pretty much, from setback line to setback line. Our approach to that, this is going to be to not build the garage or the breezeway that connects the garage to the house until all the work in the rear yard is completed. At least all the heavy work that requires machinery and delivery of materials. So our access to the construction will be via the existing driveway curb cut. I don't know that we'll open the new curb cut to the right early in the process. I think Ralph Cataldo will probably call that shot. But in cooperation with Ralph, we've resolved to not build the garage until we have been able to deliver, fill, do all the demolition, I guess, deliver fill, do the grading, do the hardscape, plant the mitigation plants, and then essentially sort of back our way out. The timing of that will be, the house won't be occupied until the spring of 2022, I'm sorry, 2022. But my goal is to install all the mitigation plantings as soon as the plants are available in the nurseries in next April, maybe late March or April. So the mitigation plants and other native plants will be in place very early in the construction process. A year before the house is occupied. Okay. So, well, let's talk a little bit about sweet fern. I don't know. I mean, I'm a little confused by that observation by the staff because, we've used sweet fern in mitigation plantings before. In fact, we used it on this property. It was approved as in the beach stair plan. The sweet fern is a woody plant. I mean, I referred to the manual of woody plants, of woody landscape plants by Michael Durr, which is the Bible for ornamental and native woody plants in horticulture, in the horticulture and landscape architectural worlds. So I referred to that today, and one it's sweet fern is included in the book, which is a book about woody plants, but also is a woody plant. I mean, it's although ferns are most often herbaceous. Comptonia, which is a relative of bayberry, is considered a woody plant. It grows to 2 to 4 feet tall and 4 to 8 feet wide, and we like to use it because it responds so well to droughty conditions. And on a site like this, the mitigation plantings will be under the influence of drying winds off the ocean, which it will, I think, handle very well. So I mean, Comptonia or sweet fern is native. It's found in sandy clearings, grasslands, sand barrens. So anyway, I guess I would like to talk to staff about that. comment and see if we can bring you around, and if we can't, then I guess we'll make a substitution. So anyway, let's see other observations here. I talked about the construction access. Jeff mentioned that we're going to take out the Bluestone patio, that little pavement area to the over on the right side of the plant, to the rear. Honestly, the part about that's going to be most challenging to me is that I'd like to keep the wall, but the wall itself is also in the A zone. But the wall is helping me because there are some challenging relationships between the grading of this property and the grading of the topography of the property to the right. So what those walls are doing is they're enabling me to hold up that corner of the house and provide accessibility, by enabling me to level the land between the walls and the house. So, if I have to pull it out of the A zone, I guess, we'll have to look at how to round off that corner and pull it in, much closer to the house. But anyway, I'd like to hear from Jennifer, others about that. Yeah, I think that's basically it. As far as the grading goes, as I mentioned earlier, because this site simply slopes from the front of the existing house all the way to the top of the coastal bank, the insertion of a larger new house and the leveling of the land around the house, whereas the land drops around the existing house and presents mobility challenges. But all of that results in the need to sort of bring in material and to regrade the rear yard. But none of our fill is in the floodplain. It's all outside of the floodplain. Some of it's in the A zone, more of it's in the B zone. If there are concerns about it, I would point out that first of all, any stormwater that might flow over the ground, towards the coastal features, flows most rapidly over lawn and less rapidly through woody areas, simply because the friction that those areas, create for the movement of water. So we're reducing the lawn area. And I would point out that the existing lawn area already, first of all, it covers the whole backyard and slopes towards the coastal features. So what I think we're doing that will help is we're reducing lawn area, by 3,369 square feet. So the surface that water will move over rapidly is shrinking. And then we're, by virtue of the mitigation plantings and other elective plantings on our part, we're densifying, I guess, for creating a dense native planted condition between the bottom or the seaward edge of the lawn and the coastal features. It ranges in width from 14 feet wide at the narrowest point to almost 90 feet deep on the deepest area. So I think we're protecting very well against the flow of stormwater towards the coastal features over our filled and regraded lawn. So we'll provide the requested cut and fill calculations. We just received that request today, and it takes a while to compute those. I guess with that, I'd like to I just open it up for any questions or comments.
Dan, are you all set? Do you want me to stop sharing your screen, the screen for you?
I'm all set. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, Dan, that you don't like my comments about the sweet fern. I do know that you used a mixture of it for the staircase. That was a really small planting area. So that was fine, and I'm not even quite sure. If you give me a moment, I can tell you if we even know what was gonna go in there. I think it just said native shrubs, but if you give me
Well,
one.
it was in a list and that Jeff provided in his plan.
For the staircase?
Yeah, it wasn't, we didn't do a plan with circles on it. Jeff provided a list of plants that we would be choosing from. And so a portion of them are sweet fern.
Hang on.
But is there some doubt that they're woody?
No, it's not a doubt that they're woody, but the board wants to see something with, you're greatly increasing the impervious surface on this lot. And you said so yourself, they only grow to a height of 2 feet. I've seen restoration efforts with sweet fern. These plants are only like this big and they're not very wide and bushy like you described, Dan. So there are other landscape designers who I hammer on all the time about the use of sweet fern for mitigation. I don't particularly think it really offers much. I know it's a woody plant. I'm well aware that it is, part of the bayberry family. I understand that. I just don't particularly think that it's appropriate mitigation planting when the board really
Well,
tries.
I respect your position on that, Jennifer. We'll consider other selection.
Thank you. And the plan was great. The site plan was good, Dan. You're planting, overall the planting plan was great, except for the 45 sweet fern. We were a little
Should
concerned.
we use none or should we?
Methodology on the grading. So thank you for explaining that, because we were like, if you build the house, how are you going to get the machines behind there to do all the earthwork that you're proposing behind there? So thank you for that explanation. And unfortunately, your patio is moving into that A zone, and the board does have a regulation that does not allow any movement closer than the present primary structure in the A zone. So
Okay, all right, well, we'll wrestle with that.
yeah, wrestle with that one. The board can talk about the wall. I just don't want that patio to be there.
Well, the patio, honestly, can I just say, Jennifer, that apart from this, your request, our client, the foresters requested that patio be removed. So that patio is being removed. Yeah. So I have no issue with that whatsoever. I would just ask that the board give in, look for any opportunity or within your abilities to enable the wall to be, perhaps where it is, just simply because it's doing a lot of work for us. But if it can't be there, then we'll have to figure out another way.
Actually, just to clarify, Dan, I did bring up the plan for the staircase, including the revised plan for the staircase. And it just says native woody plants. It doesn't specify.
I think there's a list down in the low part of the plan where the calculations are, maybe.
I'm looking at, it is, I apologize. There is a plant list, correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, that's.
But that was a much smaller area. You're covering
no,
a much greater area, and I think given all the earthwork down there, it just needs something a little bit more substantial. That's all.
You got it.
Thank you.
Anything else, John?
No, and the book you're referring to, Jen, we do have a copy of it.
All right.
Yeah, we do. We
I was
do.
gonna bring you one of mine.
Oh no, we have that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Newton, do you have anything to add to that?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. We're gonna open up to staff comments. Betsy?
my only comment, I don't have a problem with the fill. My only concern when I saw that plan is that, and I know Jen and Maury will be thinking about whatever limit of work you have there, just to, because while you're doing that work, if there's a big rainstorm, there could be a lot of mud flowing down. So it'll just have to have a beefy limit of work at the base of that.
I will convey that to Ralph Catello, and you know, I share your concern, and we'll make sure that we have a very substantial erosion control, you know, solution at the base of the slope.
Yeah, that was my only concern. That's all, Jamie. Thanks.
Okay, Courtney?
I don't have anything to add to what's already been discussed.
All right. Jeff, is this house moving closer to the resource area? It seems like it's a few feet closer.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I believe it's getting closer, but it's the part that's getting closer is not in the buffer.
It's in the A zone.
A zone.
You see that, Jen? You okay with that?
Where are you talking about, Jamie?
You look on his page 1, the existing conditions. You look at the overlay of the brick patio, and it has the new screen porch over it.
Yeah,
Overlaid.
I think that's B zone.
that's the B zone, Jamie.
The B zone,
Okay.
Jamie.
Fair enough.
No, the
Right,
only
okay.
part that we picked up on moving closer is that that patio area.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Kevin O'Brien.
Mr. O'Brien, you're on mute.
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mark?
I don't have any destructive comments. It looks like a rather comprehensive planting plan, which I like. That's about all.
All right. Maury?
Of course, I'm gonna agree with Jen on the sweet fern. And I do want everybody to notice that the planting distances are about 10 foot on center. So even the sweet fern is 10 foot on center.
10 feet.
this-
No,
Maybe I'm in a
don't-
wrong scale. Are
I
you
think
one,
it's the wrong scale.
are you 1 to
that's-
20?
I
Or 1
think
to
it might
10?
be an A
Gotcha.
scale plan.
Yeah, just a minute. 1 to 10.
The planning plan is 1 to 10, Maury.
Yeah, well,
Right.
they're about 5 feet apart.
Yeah,
But anyway, what is JC? You don't have it on your legend?
it's a JC is a Juniperus chinensis. It's a spreading juniper. I'm just using it in the
Yeah, in the
kind of
wall.
the wall.
Yeah. I think I really like your planting plan. I think it's very it's a nice hefty beef up of that coastal bank. My big issues with this project is the house is doubling. They were 30 feet off the lot line, which I know you can be 10 feet, which is why you have to build these walls. The old house was 30 feet from the lot line. The new house is 10 feet from the lot line. The old garage was 50 feet from the lot line. The new house is 10 feet, and the new garage is 10 feet. These walls are very, very big. There's a lot of fill that's going to go behind these. You're looking at that patio, that little fire pit area. That's at elevation 40. The existing elevation there is 33. That's a 6-foot wall. The one along the neighbor's yard to the right, that is a wall that
The
goes.
walls are stacked, right? I mean, they're terraced. Isn't that right?
You have top of wall. I don't know which one it is. It says top of wall 40 feet. So I'm just going with top of wall 40 feet. 40.5
Maybe
feet.
that's wrong. Okay, so the
And then you have a top
the
of wall at
below is
39,
up.
which is a 1 foot difference.
Right,
So
right.
39, I mean, and again, that contour line that the 39 new spot grade, the old existing spot elevation is 31. That's 8 feet. These are immense walls to hold back dirt and fill to hold this huge house that is doubled in size exactly by 10 feet 5 inches, and you can go 10 feet off the lot line. They have maximized this. I am very, very concerned with these elevation changes, the amount of fill coming in, and how they're going to stabilize it, and how it's going to affect the neighbors, because now they have literally built a castle with a wall around it. The one to the right of the house, to the north, I'm going to say northwest, that top of wall, if you look at it in places, that wall is 7 feet tall at the coastal bank, which is 50 feet off the top of the coastal bank. It's 7 foot high. I just think
So
that,
the-
yep, go on.
Well, if I could just speak, well, can I, so it's challenging, property. I mean, it is a bigger house than
It's
the.
challenging because you have doubled the size of
Well,
the house.
Can I just say that I haven't doubled it? I am sort of I mean, I think that the house and its design is the product of our client and their architects, work. I'll tell you one of the things that I did do early on. They originally had the garage, had the house was kind of an L configuration, and the garage was sort of an L in the front yard, and which pushed the house very deep. It left more room on the sides of the house, but pushed the house far deeper into the site. Which would have resulted virtually in the elimination of the lawn in the backyard completely, because the mitigation planting requirements would have caused that. So what I suggested that they do in order to reduce fill, reduce the depth of the house into the property, preserve some lawn, is to basically put the garage on the end of the house, and that extended the house to the right and to the left, but it enabled the house to be built just as close to the street as the existing house, and then it's a little deeper into the site. So
Yeah, to our
as far-
resources,
pardon me?
to the resources.
Well, closer to the.
When you call it deeper meaning closer to the coastal bank in Buzzards Bay.
Well, into the B zone,
A and B zone.
well,
So-
we've only poked our toe into the A zone, and we're talking about that. So, about changing that. So,
Well,
so in any
actually,
case,
no, can I, it was actually my turn to talk, and I'll ask you another
okay, sure,
question.
okay. I'm sorry.
The A zone, you keep saying that the building isn't going in the A zone. This fill, if I'm not mistaken, with all the contour changes, if you look in the very, very light shadow to the right of the plan closest to the water, and where it says lawn, that contour line at 29, look at the dark number is 37. Am I correct? I'm asking, that's a question to you.
Well, I don't know where you're looking, but.
Okay,
yes,
I'm looking at your plan, and
No, I
where it
understand, but I
says,
don't know.
all
I
right,
don't know precisely where you're looking, but I will say that,
right,
yes, there are some areas of the rear yard where the fill is steep. There are some points along the boundary where the wall is high, and there are some areas along the boundary where the walls are low. But I'll tell you what, our process to get to this point has included, my presentation, to the butter of the plans and discussion of the plans, and so we have, his understanding, and in fact we have his permission to disturb, his site, his property during the construction of those walls, and to repair his property before late spring in this coming season. So there actually has been a cooperative process here, to get to this point. So
well,
I think that,
I think it's wonderful that the neighbor's approving this, but this is a permit for this lot, so you're working on another lot. You might want to think about that. I know it's great he gave you
I'll
permission.
check to see where we
Yeah.
are. Yeah.
But again, just, I'm very, very concerned. I know on the, south side or the southwest side, the walls aren't so extreme as on the northwest side. But on the true west or north, facing Buzzards Bay, where your writing is 3,500 square feet above high water lawn, you start looking at those contour lines, and I don't know how you're going to stabilize when you're going from contour in the A zone. Now, this is in the A zone. You say you're not disturbing or moving closer with the building, but you are putting at, like I say, it's the existing contour line is at 29 and you're at 37. There's another contour line that's 27 and you are at 33. So that's substantial. That's 4 to 5 to 6 feet of fill to make a flat lawn off the front of this house. And again, I love your planting, but I really think that there's, this is an excessive amount of cut and filling. It's not cutting, it's just filling. You're not cutting anything, you're adding. And
Well, I guess if I could, I guess I think your observations are probably correct. I mean, in terms of the factual information, I'm confident in our methodology, our construction, technique. I mean, we're pretty accomplished landscape architects, and I know that how we're going to build these walls, and that they're going to, successfully, retain the material that we bring in, the fill. There's no question about it. I mean, been doing this for 40 years. I guess where I would differ with your comments is in your use of the word excessive. Given what I've been asked to accomplish here in terms of providing a landscape that's accessible around the house that was designed by the owner and their architect, I think we've provided just enough, in order to accomplish, what's been expected of us. And we've been as thoughtful about this, as we can be. And I'm really proud of the plan. I'm proud of what we're providing in the way of conservation, improvements, to the, I don't think you see very many projects that have 6,000, almost 7,000 square feet of mitigation and other native plants that are electively undertaken. So I think it's a project that involves some structural solutions, but they're not structural solutions that are unique in my world. They're very common in the projects that we undertake and design. And I'm confident that they will be successful and not cause any environmental degradation.
All right, I'm sure it'll work out fine. I just wanted this board to realize that we are putting a lot of fill within 50 feet of a coastal bank. We are putting a lot of fill in the A zone, and it's
a lot of protection.
Are we in the B zone as well? I don't think so. But anyway, I that's all. I just want to bring that so that we can have it in deliberation. The height of these walls, 7 and 8 and 9 foot walls, in some of them in the A zone and the fill in the A zone. That's all. Thank you.
Can I just say that when you describe 7, 8, and 9 foot walls, I think you're finding the points in the plan where the walls are the highest. And
that's my job.
Yeah, I understand. You do your job well, Maureen. I respect you. But I mean, I think to look at the whole situation in comprehensively, the walls are not, 7, 8, or 9 feet tall, and very extensively. They're sort of at the extreme point. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pat,
No comments.
Peter,
No comment.
Steve,
No comments. Thank you.
and is there anything in the public chat function?
No, there isn't, Mr. Chairman. So we still
Uh,
need a revised plan in the fill calculations for this site. I think that's important.
So are we looking at a continuance, Jennifer?
I think so, Dan.
All
Could
right.
we fill calculations, Jen, for what's in the A zone? You know, separate the two? I'm just concerned how much is in the A zone and the 50.
No, I know, Mary. Dan, is that possible that you could give me A zone fill calculations, B zone fill calculations, and a total for areas in our jurisdiction, not the whole, it could be areas within our jurisdiction? A, B in total?
Yeah, I think I can do that, yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm trying to find my paper to give you a continuance.
Okay.
Okay, so we have those two as well. Oh, I've already got that, okay.
Jamie?
Yep.
May I make a comment while she's looking for a date?
Yes.
I'm just trying to see if we could possibly do this on the 18th for Dan.
Well, I just want to go back.
I think we could. I mean, we have 2 new notices, a bunch of, we got a couple of new enforcements, 1 continued enforcement. 4 continued notices, but the Muskego ones aren't bad. An amended and an ANRAD. It's up to you guys. We could put it on the November 18th. If you would like, the next available hearing would be December 2nd after that. We just had a really busy month in November and October. These hearings have been quite long. So it's up to the board.
Is there any reason we can't put it to the second?
No, I don't know what the second's going to bring, but we could put it to the second. It's really, up to the commission.
We're talking the 2nd of December?
Yes.
Well, isn't it up to the applicant? It's up to the applicant when they
Well, I
want.
know, but usually you ask me how many hearings you have. I don't see why we couldn't do it I mean, it'll be a long night on the 18th, but it could get done.
Yeah, I guess, we could be ready for the 18th. If you can fit us in, if you can't, I don't think, I think what we're over.
Meetings have been
overall-
really long.
Yeah, okay. Well, so move it to the 2nd, that's fine. Our process involves, the goal of breaking ground after the new year. So we just want to be sure that we, give ourselves the best chance of having an order of conditions, in advance of that.
So at the request of the applicant, I'll make a motion to continue to December 2nd. And then I still have a question, Jamie.
Carlo Hawk second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue until 12/2. Betsy, you had a question,
Yeah,
comment?
my question is, and that's what Maury brought up, and I noticed, I kind of jerked up too when Dan said it. Dan, if you are planning to do anything on the neighbor's land, you have to apply for that. And you should probably incorporate it. I don't know, can he at that point incorporate it into the continuance? Jen?
Well, technically, we would have to advertise. So Dan, if you know for a fact that you are going to need construction access or staging or anything like that on the neighbor's property, I need to know in order to advertise it for the 2nd. Okay.
So could that be an RDA?
No, it's part of this project.
So would it be, so what is it? And Jeff probably knows, but I mean, is it a revised notice or is it?
Well, you don't show us
notice?
any work on the, neither.
Yeah, no, I respect that. I totally understand.
So
guess
we
what
don't know
I'll-
we have no idea what you're doing on that neighbor's
Yeah,
property.
no, I understand.
And
makes sense.
actually, I mean,
So what I'll do first of all is I'll talk to Ralph Catello and see if, you know, what the situation requires. And then we'll document that on a plan. And then I guess we'll have to figure out how to, the process, you know.
and make
for-
sure it's like, and that's if it's in our jurisdiction. Because
Right, I understand.
you might be outside of our jurisdiction. I don't know. We just don't have any idea.
It's gonna be in the B zone.
Yeah, what you're, okay, then we're gonna need to, so basically when you submit, you know, all your revisions, just give me a heads up. I'll have to advertise it a couple of weeks in advance. But
Right.
I need to know what's going on over there.
Well, I will send along something that documents this for your review via email.
Okay, that's fine.
In the
And
next
I'll
day or
figure
so.
out, I'll figure out how to
And
advertise
then,
it
and then
on
why
our
don't we just
end.
talk?
Yeah, I'll figure out how to advertise it on our end. I just need to have the time to do that.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, I'm gonna call for the vote. We have a motion and a second on the table to continue this hearing until 12/2. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Rooney, aye.
Maury,
Carla Hawks Eye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
No.
It is unanimous. This hearing is continued until 12/2. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Jeff.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to remind everyone, let's try to keep things short and sweet and not speak over each other. Some of the things are getting repetitive because too much going on. Next up, Davis Neck LLC, 0 Davis Neck Road, map 4522B, parcel 0000004, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to remove a portion of an existing stone riprap, to construct and maintain a stone riprap return, to establish a coastal dune with beach grass plantings, and to install fiber rolls with all associated construction activities and dune plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, 1 second. Thomas or Adriana, can we move Mr. Borselli back into the attendee list? I accidentally promoted him up to panelist. Sorry, Mike. And Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Mike McGrath up as a panelist to present the project. Mike, is there anybody else in your project team you want me to promote up at this time?
No,
Okay, thank you.
my name is Michael McGrath. I'm a registered engineer and professional land surveyor, and I'll prepare, my company, Homes of McGrath, prepared the plans and the notice of intent. So I'd like permission to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
This site is at the end of Davis Neck Road in East Falmouth. And the site is a vacant lot. And
Mike, we don't see your screen yet.
you don't see my screen.
Am I gonna have to have another practice session with everybody?
Maybe not everybody, maybe just some select people.
Oh, shit. Now. Do you see the photograph?
Yes, sir.
Ah,
I do.
so can you see this plan?
Yes, Mike.
Ah, all right. So this is I'll start over. This is a vacant lot at the end of Davis Neck Road in East Falmouth. There is an existing riprap wall that's in this location that basically is failing. So what I would like to do is I'm going to show you some photographs. This is a photograph of the riprap, it's actually in the street layout, but it's immediately adjoining it. But the failure is consistent along the same area. Somehow I started out with 4 photographs and now I don't have any. I have 2. So in any case, the whole point of the proposal, well, let me stop for a second. We got to talk about the resource series. There's a coastal beach. There is there's land under the ocean. We're in a velocity zone. The velocity zone comes to, I don't know if you can see my pointer, but the entire, I don't know, let's say the entire 15% of the lot is in a velocity zone. The rest of the lot's in an AE 13. So we have a coastal structure here that's failing. So what we want to do is remove a portion of the riprap, install fiber rolls, install sand and beach grass. So, whoops, sorry, you know how men are. So what I was going to show you is I have a cross section. Yes, this is the cross section. So we're going to take off all the stones except the existing stone. The stone will remain. All these stones will be taken away. They will then refill the area that's underneath. There are some voids that look deep behind the stones. The filling will go all up, completely up to where it blends in with the existing beach grass. When we, what happens is when we take this away, we have to be careful that we don't undermine the riprap wall that exists next door. So there's going to be a buried return. A buried return basically is we extend we basically turn and extend the riprap. So in a little triangle so that it supports the existing riprap. So so I believe that this is entirely appropriate. The plan does show that we're going to use 2-foot fiber rolls. What we're actually going to use is 20-inch. So that, to me, that's just a minor issue. When you put them in according to the manufacturer's instructions, and they give you cable anchors to put them in. Then, of course, after we put on a layer of sand, and then we basically plant new dune grass. So the dune grass will be not only on the bank itself, but where the area is disturbed, we're going to put the same thing when we repair the back area that's eroding. So this is a cross section of the buried riprap return. This is a sort of a blow up, so I hope you can understand it. One of the questions was, how are we going to get to the site? And this probably looks familiar to you in that this is the access that was permitted. You haven't issued the order yet, but you voted to basically approve a project under SE 025-4569. And in that, we describe this to be a stockpile, and this is the access area. And this, when we filed this notice of intent on that, we basically said that we would restore the areas that were disturbed and replace the vegetation so that we can get the crane out here to do the work. So I believe that this is entirely appropriate activity, and I think that you could easily issue an order approving this, and I think you could easily refer to the access. The people that are working on the repair of the riprap at the end of Davis Neck Road are, in fact, some of them are part of this LLC. Not all of them, just there's 1 or 2 in the LLC that are part of the people that are going to fix Davis Neck Road. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have concerning the project.
Thank you, Mike. If you would stop sharing.
Oh,
please.
Uh, Oh, God.
Come on, you're an expert.
No, I'm a man. Oh, God, it's getting worse. What?
All right, Jen, do you want to start?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mike, I mean, I always like to see the removal of armoring. I think that's a positive. But given the armoring on either side, do you think this is going to work? Is it, or do you think it'll scour out, or?
Well,
Because I think I've actually heard you argue the exact
client has-
opposite in my 15 years.
all right, the client has looked at various options and he believes that this is an appropriate option. I've said that the commission will require monitoring.
Yes.
And I think the order ought to say that reports are filed and the order ought to give them the ability to restore the dune. There's no question that in a velocity zone, that most of the time soft solutions don't work. This has got the core rolls in it, so it will have some resistance, but I think there's a significant risk here.
Okay.
But it's what the clients believe is the most appropriate solution.
I mean, I commend them for that. So that's great to see. This is more of a legal question, so maybe Pat can jump in here. You have a license agreement for the neighboring parcel. And that license agreement is written between the town and a certain set of parties. That license agreement, I don't believe, would carry over to work being done on this particular project, like stockpiling all of your revetment boulders on the town's right of way, or using access for this particular project. So correct me if I'm wrong, Pat, and I hate to put you on the spot like this. Would a
On the spot.
separate license agreement be required by the Board of Selectmen?
Yes, the simple answer is yes. I was going to ask the same question. Where are they getting the authority to store equipment on that way? It's a public way, it's town property.
So Mike, you're gonna have to present this to the Board of Select. We'll have to continue it and you'll have to present it to the Board of Selectmen and get, permission before we can close it.
The work is going to be done at the exact same time. So
Mike, I
I
understand what you're
understand if
saying.
you want me to go get a license, I'll get a license. But in reality, all right, I'll get a license.
Mike, you're asking for an agreement between the town and another party set. And, you need to square that away with the town administration and the Board of Selectmen prior to asking us to issue an order of conditions to allow you to access town. I know we've allowed you to access on the last one and that was clearly stated, but I can't issue an order or recommend the issuance of an order of conditions if it hasn't been vetted by the Board of Selectmen. You know the process in this town.
I also know that when I drive around town, I see interruptions of the public road all the time without licenses, but I will go get the license.
Well,
Appreciate it.
Mike, I'm not in charge of permitting those interruptions, so.
Move on. Kevin, do you have anything?
Oh,
to
that's
add?
all I have. I mean, I think I commend the applicants for taking this approach. I think it's great. I'm with Mike on this. I'm not quite sure. I think there is a risk to the project. But if they want to go forward with this, that's fine. And just the access issues.
All right. Kevin, you have anything to add?
No, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to open up the comments. Going to start with Mark.
I've got a bunch of comments about this. First of all, I always have problems with somebody comes with a plan like this, which shows like the mean high water. And I don't know where that comes from, but it's certainly not from a on the ground survey, because I was out there today at mid tide and the water was washing over those riprap. And first, that's the first issue. Secondly, the groin is shown here, but there's no resemblance to a rather loose jumble of rocks out there. There's not a practical groin. We can't imagine it like the groin we saw last week. It's not going to do much one way or the other, but I'm just more haranguing about the plan, not about the groin. The thing that's most problematic to me is this rather casual sketch up in the corner that shows these fiber rolls and some toe stones, and then sort of some kind of ill-defined slope going up the hill towards the top of the hill. And without seeing, I mean, you can eyeball that and try to see what the slope might be, and it might be like 1 to 3. I think the slope is great. I think that's probably the only way to keep sand on top of those rolls. But if you had drawn this into your plan, or maybe I don't have the latest plan, but all I have is the picture which was shown earlier, and it doesn't show how far back. In fact, that set of fiber rolls will cut back into the property, maybe 30 feet, maybe, which is not even shown on the plan. So it's confusing. We certainly should have that on the plan, which is the slope of those fiber rolls, and then in the plan view, then how far that cuts back into the beach. You can see the top of the riprap on this what older plan we have, and if those fiber rolls are used, they're going to cut back right into what's shown as the dune grass, and then it's going to give, I don't know, we'll have to see. It's kind of a unstable looking sort of situation with those two areas of riprap on each side. So I agree with what Jen said about that. We don't know what's going to happen. But I guess the bottom line is 2 aspects of the plan. I'm not happy with the plan which doesn't show the slope of these fiber rolls, and it doesn't show in the plan view the extent of the fiber rolls, how far up into the beach or up into the land mass they extend. That's all.
Thank you, Mark. Maury?
I don't have much to add, except that the riprap that they want to reconstruct on Davis Neck Road, that is okay with the town as well? Is that the town's?
Did I answer that?
Yes.
Sure.
That was a separate notice of intent, and I don't see where you issued it, but you did vote to approve it.
Okay, thank you. And I will just concur with Mark. Thank you.
Thank you. Pat?
My only comment is in response to Maureen's last question. I believe that there's an easement agreement between the association and the town for maintenance of that revetment, and that prior to the issuance of the order that the commission voted on, we required a license to authorize that work specifically as described in the notice of intent, and to stockpile, bring vehicles in at the end of the public way. Is that accurate, Jen?
Yes.
And that license has been issued.
For that area and for the materials required for that work, but it really you really do need a second license from the town to allow whatever activities are necessary on Davis Road to do this project.
I've already agreed. I'll file for a new license from the Board of Selectmen. As far as the comments, this survey was done in 2018, so it may well be that the coastal beach is different. I will have my surveyors check the coastal beach. We're not proposing to do any work in the groin. So the groin is the groin.
No further
Thank
comment
you.
here.
All right. Peter,
No further questions.
Steve,
As a non-engineer, I was fascinated that they thought that this project would succeed. I hope it does, and I'd rather see it than the stone wall. But the abutting wall in the right of way is eroding at a surprising rate, and I think that reflects on the comments about the mean high tide. The tide's coming in hard here, and this will be very challenged.
all right. Betsy,
I'll just echo what everyone else said. I was astounded when I saw what this plan was. I thought it was going to come in and build back the riprap. So, we'll see what happens.
Courtney,
It's all been said. No other comments.
thank you. Kevin,
The only question I have is if you need, apart from all of everybody's already commented on, if you need this cutback with the riprap to protect the existing riprap on one side, wouldn't you also need it on the town side?
The plan on the town side showed its own return.
Showed its what?
When we designed the riprap in Davis Neck Road, we put a return on it. So we knew this was coming. So we don't need to put a return because there's already a return.
There's already a
Permit.
return.
There's already
Thank
one
you.
permit.
We
That was my
permitted that one
question.
already, Kevin. That was in what we just permitted a couple of weeks ago.
All right.
all right. Jen, do we have any public chat comments?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I would ask that the Conservation Commission continue this hearing to the next available date.
Okay.
That's December 2nd.
December 2nd, I agree.
Okay, at the request of the applicant, I'll make a motion to continue to December 2nd.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue this hearing until December 2nd. Mike, that'll give you enough time to work with the Board of Selectmen.
I hope so.
Okay.
If not, I'll just ask for another continue.
Enough. All right, gonna call for the vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark. Mark Gurney,
Pretty aye.
thank you. Maury,
Carlo Hawk's eye.
Pat,
Allison,
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Night.
It is unanimous. This hearing is continued until December 2nd. Thank you, Mr. McGrath.
Thank you. Good night now.
Thank you, Mike.
night.
Night, Mike. Gonna bring up the other mic now.
Hold on.
I have to recuse myself from this hearing. Jamie,
Hold on, please. Next up, Michael and Marie Angelini, 32 Snug Harbor Lane, West Falmouth, Mass. For permission to remove a bluestone patio, to request permission for an unpermitted shed, bluestone patio, excuse me, small deck and rent station to remain, and to supplement previously installed mitigation plantings. Maury,
I have to recuse myself from this hearing, Mr. Chairman.
thank you.
Mr.
Okay,
Chairman?
for the record, Maury is recused from this hearing. Jen,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've promoted Mike Burselli up to a panelist to present the project.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, Mike Borselli, Falmouth Engineering. I represent the applicant. With your permission, I'd like to share my screen, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I was retained originally by the Angelinis to seek a certificate of compliance for an order of conditions that was issued in 2008. Knowing that there's a requirement for an as-built plan, we did an as-built plan of the property, and I field checked it for compliance, and I discovered some non-compliance matters. So we worked through details of the non-compliance matters with the property owner and applicant. We met on site with staff to basically show them the situation and describe what we hoped to do to remedy the situation. And the result of all of that is we filed a notice of intent and the plan that's before you tonight as part of that application. So I'd like to bring you through the different elements. First of all, the property is located on Snug Harbor Road. It has it's bordered by a salt marsh to the south, a non-eroding coastal bank, and then there's land subject to coastal storm flowage represented by these blue lines. No disturbance zone A from the salt marsh and coastal bank, as well as the outer buffer zone B from the coastal bank, is shown on the plan. So there's an existing single-family dwelling with an attached garage, a half-moon driveway. So the elements that we discovered were not in compliance. There was no approval for the shed located in the northwest corner. There was no permission for a very small unpermitted patio. And I'm going to try to zoom in on this a little bit. That was basically a landing at the bottom of this deck, which houses just a landing, and they have a propane gas grill on that. There was no permission on the original plan for this small entry deck with the rinse station next door. And we also discovered that the original plan had a requirement for an area of mitigation that was not planted. So it's sort of a double whammy when you apply the mitigation area factors to the unpermitted impervious surfaces, and then also have, in addition to planting that, also have to plant what was not permitted originally. So there's a table on the plan that outlines how we came up with a solution. And it's all tabulated here, beginning with the area of the unpermitted shed, the area of the unpermitted small patio, the area of the unpermitted deck and rinse station. And then we're asking for a credit to remove an old stone patio that's shown here as sort of to offset and get some credit for these added impervious surfaces. And if you tabulate all that, there's a net increase of impervious surfaces, and they're all in the A zone, of 138 square feet. Applying a factor of 14 gives you that. Then we referred to the old plan. The old plan originally required 966 square feet of mitigation. When you add that to what was, I just went through, was required for the small additional impervious surfaces, you come up with this total 1,380. We observed only 290 square feet of mitigation was planted originally, and was on the site when we observed the conditions for compliance. So if you do the differential between those two numbers, there's an additional requirement for 1,090 square feet. We rounded it up to 1,100. And I've shown the areas we propose to plant material, starting with over here on the very westerly side. There's a lawn area here. And this is relatively sunny. and open, and this is the yard for the family. So we were proposing in this area to use beach plum. This green area here is the 290 square feet of existing mitigation planting that was on the site and exists today. Over here is an area that totals 750 square feet that we're proposing be a mix of high bush blueberry. It's the native plant is identified here, in arrowwood viburnum, because it's a relatively shady area under a tree canopy. So those are all proposed to be planted adjacent to the existing buffer to coastal bank and salt marsh, and they will enhance and improve the buffer to those wetland resources. And if you can approve this and issue an order of conditions, this would, when the plan's executed, would bring the property into compliance with the old order. And we'd request two certificates of compliance, one for the old order and one for the work that would be done under this order if you issue a approval order of conditions. So I think that sums it up. I went over this with staff earlier prior to the application. And the staff report that I received recently didn't appear to have any issues or questions. So I'm happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Mike. Jen, do you want to begin?
I don't have any comments beyond our staff report. I did meet with Mike and the applicant out at the site when this was discovered. So we kind of talked through things, and the kind of plan sort of reflects what we talked about.
All right. Kevin, do you want to add anything?
I have nothing to add, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Steve, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thought the plan was well presented and I don't have any questions.
Thank you. Peter.
I commend everyone working together. It saves a lot of time and aggravation. So I would like to have this as a template for future projects that the engineer finds that it's a non-compliance, and this looks good to me.
Thank you. Pat.
No questions or comments.
Mark.
No comments or questions.
Thank you. Kevin.
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
Courtney.
No questions or comments.
Betsy. You're muted.
I'll second Peter's comment, except that when I went out to the site, there's I think it would be like towards the east side, there's a cedar grove, and Mike even has it marked where there's cedar stumps. There's clearly been clearing under there. Was that done under an RDA, or did I miss something?
Those cedar trees that I identify as stumps were windblown. In fact, if you look closely, you can see the stumps are all leaning. There was some microbursts, I can't give you the exact date, in the last year or two, and they all blew over. And it was a mess, and the owner just had to clean it up, and he cut them. He likes cedars, but we didn't know how to handle that since they were blown over by nature. And he just cleaned them up at some point. He didn't get any permission.
And you reminded him always to take pictures of that, so that if conservation asks what had happened, he can just show?
Well, I asked him about that and he said he didn't have photos, but he was hoping that the evidence of the angle of the trees, the way they were all blowing the same direction would convince people that he didn't just do it. Yeah.
I mean, this happens to people. I mean, people will say to me, what do I do if something blew over in a storm? And I say, always take pictures and then call conservation.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all. I absolutely agree with Peter, though. It was nice that things were, first of all, that everybody worked together and you tabulated it very clearly.
Thank you.
And we really need it at this point in the evening.
Jen, are there any public chat, comments, questions?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to close this hearing. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Ernie, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Aye.
It is unanimous. This hearing is closed. Thank you, Mr. Borselli.
Thank you.
Next up, continued hearings under notice of intent. First up, Joseph A. Andrews, 302 Ecopesket Road, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to raise, RAZE, an existing single-family dwelling and construct a new single-family dwelling with associated clearing, grading, landscaping, and mitigation plantings. First up is Pat Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, I'd just like to make a disclosure. I see that Brian Wall is representing the applicant. I have a professional relationship with Attorney Wall regarding a matter not under the jurisdiction of the commission. I have filed a disclosure with our appointing authority and the town clerk outlining the relationship and stating that I can act without prejudice on matters presented to the commission by Attorney Wall. I'm making this disclosure to dispel any potential appearance of conflict.
Thank you, Pat. Jen,
Mr. Chairman,
wasn't
Mike
open.
is,
Hasn't opened, right?
Yes,
excuse,
that's correct, Jamie.
Thank you.
My turn?
This Mike?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I thought Jen was going to say something, but if it's my turn, I'll.
No, it's your turn. We've heard enough from her.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Again, Mike Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant along with Brian Wall. Mr. Wall is available if there's questions or comments that he's better equipped to answer. Also, Mr. Andrews, the property owner, Joe Andrews, is also available if there's some questions for him that are specific and where he wants to make a comment. This notice of intent application was filed and there was a previous date for the initial hearing, but it was continued without opening the hearing because of some comments from an abutter adjacent to the property. And because of those comments, we reviewed them, did some investigation, and updated the plan so that it would reflect and address the comments raised. I'll start off though with the basic elements of the property, starting with the Wetland Resources. On the southeast side of the property is Green Pond. You may remember this property. There's an existing dock that you gave permission to construct. It's shown here. Green Pond, land under the ocean. There's a small area of salt marsh. There's a strip of dune. There's a coastal beach. There's an armored coastal bank.
Mike,
yes.
you want to share your screen?
Oh, I didn't even. Here I am.
Well, I'm listening to you and I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing Peter and Jamie and.
Here I am flailing away with my mouse thinking you're all paying attention. So here's the abridged version. Green pond, land under the ocean, strip of salt marsh, dune, coastal beach, armored coastal bank. This is a dock you approved several years ago. It was constructed and a certificate of compliance was issued. The property currently contains an existing single-family dwelling, driveway, pool, patio, garage with guest house above, outside jurisdiction. There's a septic system that serves the house and the guest house, and it's located outside jurisdiction, except for the pipe leading from the house to the septic tank. There are other elements on the site, such as a patio, a barbecue, some bluestone that supports a barbecue, and a walkway leading to the existing house. There is a plan of existing conditions. It's sheet 1 of 2, but this proposed plan shows the existing elements overlaid in red line work. And then it shows the proposed house in a black color with the appropriate labels. So the issue that came up that required us to continue the hearing initially from the last scheduled hearing had to do with some activities that Mr. Andrews had performed, innocently not realizing he needed any permission and it was minor changes to areas around the pool, mainly. There was one thing that he did that clearly should have received permission, and I'll get to that in a minute. But I wanted to focus on these blue cross-hatched areas, if I could, and I'll zoom in. When the abutter pointed out, and we went back into our archives, we realized that the pool patio was slightly different back when we originally surveyed this property for the dock work. We had actually received an order of conditions for the dock, and also had received an order of conditions to raise and reconstruct the house, but that order of conditions was never executed and the plan never went forward. But when we looked at the aerial photos and the comments from the abutter and our old survey plan from, I think it was like 2008, we discovered, and I've highlighted in a hatch pattern, cross-hatched in one direction for elements that were removed without permission, and cross-hatched in another direction, elements that were added without permission. And these all occurred between the existing house, on the landward side of the existing house. So they were in the B zone to a coastal bank. And so this crosshatched area here was a section of patio that was removed around the patio, the pool. And this section is a portion of patio that was added. This red line represents an old driveway spur that went up around the driveway and was right next to the pool that Mr. Andrews chose to remove. This section is not in jurisdiction, but this section here that I'm highlighting with the mouse is in the outer buffer B from a coastal bank. In addition, there was a very small patio out here that was also removed. That's in an A zone. The sum total of all of those is listed on the plan, but you can tell just by observation that the net result of those changes was that there was a reduction in impervious surface. So we were hoping, since it's done and nothing is proposed to change there, that this is more than a wash as far as a reduction, and that we're hopeful that we can just continue to move forward with those since they're already in existence. Should have been requested permission, but they were not. The other element that I mentioned is this existing patio. So that existing patio is clearly in an A zone. No permission was granted. Permission clearly should have been requested for that. That's being removed, and it'll just be restored back to grass as it had been previous. So to the best of my knowledge, those are the alterations that occurred over time, sometime between when the dock was permitted and the present time. So I held those sort of separate to not confuse you with the other project that we're here to hopefully get permission for. And that is to raise the existing house and reconstruct a new house in its place. The raise and reconstruction is clearly a redevelopment project, and your regs at 10.18 apply. And we've designed the project accordingly. First off, we are not proposing that the new dwelling move any closer to the resources than the present primary structure. It has been very specifically designed to do that. You can see that the red outline of the house is closer than the new black line where in jogs of the proposed house. Even these granite steps are designed to be slightly landward to the top of the coastal bank from this leading edge of the primary structure that's the present primary structure. There's alterations to the driveway, and in addition to the size of the footprint is bigger because there's a bump out here mainly, and there's a bigger footprint you can see. The majority of these expansions occur in areas that are already impervious, meaning they're already pavement, or in a landscape bed area. So the landscape bed area, if you build new house on a landscape bed area, it's an increase in impervious surface. If you build it on a paved area, it's not an increase in impervious surface. So when we went through the calculations, we also identify on the plans there's a significant portion of driveway where I'm highlighting with the mouse here that says remove pavement and replace with grass. So there's a significant portion of driveway where there's no proposed structure for the new house or deck, but we're simply removing it and reflecting that as a credit in the net impervious surface calculations for the whole, new project. And that's all tabulated again. And the net effect of that, I also submitted with the package these reduced copies with those shaded areas, the blue in an A zone, the peach color in the B zone for both existing and proposed conditions. That's proposed, and this is existing. If you put them side by side, obviously it's easier, but the net result of all of that was a requirement for just under 170 square feet of mitigation planting. And we were proposing to put it down adjacent to the riprap. And it's a bright sunny area. There's no other native buffer to actually enhance. So we elected to use beach plum in that location. If there were other species that were similar, we probably would have used whatever was occurring naturally. There were some comments in the staff report about a kayak rack, and I think there was a pedal boat stored here, and I believe Mr. Andrews has removed those from the resource area. I think that sums it up. And if it does, I'll stop sharing my screen and be happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Mike. Jen?
I don't have any questions. My kayak rack, that was required to be, or that boat rack, kayak rack, paddleboard rack, that was required to be removed under the order of conditions for the dock, and it changed form or what went from a wooden structure to a PVC pipe structure. I don't care if it's wood, plastic, metal. no structure in the salt marsh to hold boats. Please make sure your client understands that.
I think he's listening and hears
Have
you loud and
any,
clear.
Yep.
other than that, I don't have any comments, Mr. Chairman. We did receive an email from attorney representing the abutters, similar to the last hearing. I think you all received that. Let me see if I can find it real quick. It came in this afternoon. And it came in under Alyssa. Nope. It had to do with the survey. And the survey being slightly off, I believe, on the north side of the property. We have a plan that's stamped by a professional land surveyor. So the staff stance is that that's going to be a civil matter between the two parties. We do have a professionally stamped survey from Gary Labrie, and I mean, that's his license on the line, so.
All right.
And I believe, sorry, Mr. Chairman, that Attorney Wall did submit a letter to you. Unfortunately, it wasn't given to you in a hard copy form, and we didn't realize that until late this afternoon. So I think Alyssa sent it to you late this afternoon. And I believe it was Brian's response, Attorney Wall's response to the previous letter you received regarding the butters' concerns.
Okay. Anything else?
Not at this time, Mr. Chairman. When you're ready, there is a chat that I can read in, a request to read a letter into the record that was filed on September 30th. So after everybody comments, I will read that.
Okay.
I have to find it.
All right. Betsy,
I have no questions or comments, thanks.
Courtney,
No questions.
Kevin,
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
Mark?
I praise Mr. Porcelli for a rather clear presentation of all the issues and the changes. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Maury?
No comments.
Pat?
No questions or comments.
Peter?
No questions.
Steve?
No questions. Sir.
Mike, you're getting this down pat, huh?
I'm due for a bad night.
All right. Did Attorney Wall have anything you wanted to add? I'm sorry, does Attorney Wall have anything you'd like to add? I'm going to take that as a no. All right, Jen.
I'm looking
Public
for that
comment?
letter, Mr. Chairman. That's
Okay.
Attorney Wall's letter. I can't. I think this is Attorney. No, that's Attorney Wall's letter. It's going to take me a minute to find the letter. The board did all receive it. I know they did. But the Sunquist, the abutters, filed a letter on September 30th that they wanted to be requested had been read into the record. I do believe we sent that to all of you. I just can't put my fingers on it right now. And the other comment was that Mr. Porcelli has failed to address the wall constructed without Conservation Commission approval. Mike, can you address that?
I'm not sure what she's referring to.
I believe it's the wall over by the barbecue.
Oh,
Oh, that was addressed. Go ahead, Mike, sorry.
well, I'm gonna zoom in, I think, on where we're talking about, which is right here.
You're not, so,
Oh, geez. Sorry. I could see it. So it's, oh, for the longest time, there was a wall that was masonry that was constructed to this location. And from this location, I believe, and I have photos that this was landscape timbers, but Mr. Andrews pulled the landscape timbers out and made it masonry. It wasn't an expansion of the wall, to my knowledge. I could show you some old photos if you want me to pull them out of my archive, but I have photos that show this as a landscape timber, and I know now it is now masonry. But this is in the area that's in dispute with the neighbor over the property line. There's an ongoing lawsuit over the wall encroachment.
okay. All right, is that everything in the chat function, Jen?
Yes, it is. I just want to make sure that the board, I just cannot put my hands on that letter right now. But I will, I know I did forward it to all the board members, so you do have it.
I'm just looking it up to see if I have it in front of me.
I just can't put my fingers on it right now. It's in file back at the office. Looking for the email and I just cannot find it.
Okay.
I apologize to the abutters. But there is a letter. I know I forwarded it to everyone, so please reread that. And it does concern the wall, the barbecue, the property survey, and the inconsistencies that Mike addressed this afternoon. There's a chat that says the wall is a 22 foot extension that was built in the no disturbance zone.
Yeah, that's what I just pointed to. It was
Yeah.
rebuilt. It wasn't built for the first time. And it's with regard to conservation matters. Yes, they should have got permission to rebuild it, I suppose. So if it was rebuilt, it didn't increase impervious surfaces. It was an activity that should have been requested in addition with the others, which I would surmise maybe would have been able to be approved as an RDA, but Mr. Andrews did not get permission.
I have a
Question, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
We have an additional chat that says, okay, I'm having chats going back and forth. Brian Wall says the neighbor alleges that there was a 22-foot expansion of the wall, but as Mr. Borselli said, it was not an expansion. Mr. Andrews removed 22 feet of timber ties and replaced with masonry wall, no expansion. Attorney Gibretti says there are no plans that show a previously existing wall.
There's photos. I can provide them for the record. We probably didn't pick it up on our survey. It was an old rundown timber wall and we only measured the masonry portion, not the timber portion.
I think those are in Attorney Wall's letter.
I have just one question, and it's more about whether or not this presents an issue for us moving this forward. If is part of the issue here that the wall encroaches on the neighbor's property? Because it appears that way when you look at your plot plan. And so if that's an issue, is that present a problem for us approving, disapproving, or at least acting upon this application? Maybe you can answer that, Pat.
Yeah, you're raising an issue. There are two issues I wanted to address that I hadn't focused in on, and I apologize for that. And it relates to the wall. I agree with Courtney that if you look at this survey plan, it looks as if the wall is off the property lines. Can you respond to that, Mike?
I think it's better for Mr. Wall. I think he should be impaneled so we can speak and not have to chat.
Nope, that's perfect. I just saw that, Mike. Hang on. Where did he go?
I mean, I realize this is somewhat of a separate issue, but it nevertheless goes to whether or not we can act on it.
I've promoted Attorney Wall up as a panelist. I think, oh wait, I think I promoted one half of him up as a panelist. There he is.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Good. I'm actually having an internet connectivity problem. So this is my Surface laptop. Let me just give the volume. Okay. So if I can address that last comment, Mr. Borselli correctly stated that Mr. Andrews has a pre-existing wall. It was red brick for about 57 feet along the length of the pool. And then an additional 22 feet was timber tie. And when he was doing those improvements that Mr. Borselli was talking about changing the configuration of the patio, he also put a stone facade on the existing brick wall and changed the existing timber tie wall to the same masonry wall. So there's nothing new there. There's no expansion. I think it's really important to note that the abutter, Mr. and Mrs. Sundquist, has a pending land court case against. You still hear me? Has a pending land court case against Mr. Andrews. It's all about the wall. The Sundquists allege that the wall encroaches upon their property by a few inches. And we have responded to that lawsuit by alleging that it's been there for a lengthy period of time. And we've raised a number of other equitable arguments that I'm not going to get into here, basically alleging that the wall can remain where it is. Okay, now my other ones come back. I'm sorry.
Just adverse possession.
No, Courtney, I'm sorry, I have to turn one of my computers off. I'm sorry. No, Courtney. I am sorry, Steph. I am having a connectivity problem. Courtney, it's not an adverse possession issue. It's a land court matter, so there can be no adverse possession.
Okay, but
you want to see photos of the wall? While we've been talking, I pulled them out of my archive. I can show you the timber portion. If it's important to your discussion.
Does this have anything to do with the project that's in front of us?
No.
There's just one thing I want to make a distinction here. Certainly, if there's a conflict between two private landowners as to the location of the property line, that's not within our jurisdiction, and you can have that argument in the land court. But we're looking at a plan of record that appears to show the wall outside the property line. My question to Mike, is that accurate?
Yes.
Am I correct in interpreting that line as being outside the property line?
Yes.
Okay. That is a problem. That's different from a dispute as to ownership. We have a plan that shows something that was built, and we're hearing that it was modified without an order of conditions. The second question I had was the original wall, was that approved by an order of conditions? Or are you going to demonstrate that it was built prior to the bylaw?
Am I back on again? I'm sorry.
Yes, you are.
I was having a connectivity problem, so I had two computers going and then the other one kicked in, so I was getting an echo. So I don't know where I got cut off, but to your point, Commissioner Harris, We have evidence that the wall was built in 1973 before the act was enacted and before the bylaw came into effect. It was actually built, we believe, in connection with the underground pool. And as you can see, or if we don't have pictures in front of you, but if you can imagine, the pool has a very flat area, patio area around it. And when that area—
You have a picture if you'd like to see it, if it helps, I can share my screen.
Sure, Mike, if you want to go ahead and do that.
Go ahead, Mike.
What I was saying was that when the pool went in, we believe the patio was created, and there's a difference in elevation between Mr. Andrews' property and the neighboring property. And we believe that the wall was built at that time to take into account that change in elevation. And yes, Commissioner Harris, the wall was altered without an order of conditions, but the only alteration was a stone facade was put on the existing brick, and a bluestone cap was put on top of that. And then, as we said a minute ago, the timber ties that extend beyond that, that was also turned into masonry, but it was all existing, and it was just, the work was done on the existing wall.
Here's the timber.
Yeah, Mike is showing the timber tie there. And so, as I was saying, and again, I'm sorry if I got cut off there, I think it's beyond the commission's purview, but I think it's important for the commission to know Mr. and Mrs. Sundquist have brought this land court action against Mr. Andrews, alleging that the wall is encroaching, and they're seeking that it be removed. And again, without getting too far into things that are beyond your purview, Mr. Andrews has asserted— I represent him in the land court case, and he has asserted a number of equitable defenses, including what's called a tolerable exception and an equitable servitude, to say that the wall can remain. And Courtney, I think this is where I got cut off. It's not adverse possession because both of these properties are in the land court, but we have made arguments that are akin to adverse possession, that the wall can remain. And having said all of that, I would respectfully submit to the commission that you shouldn't be manipulated by an abutter. If you look at the matters that have been asserted, none of them relate to any claim that the abutter is going to be flooded or adversely impacted by this project. They're basically asserting land court matters to, I think, gain advantage in that land court case. And I would ask and suggest that the commission, if you focus on wetlands regulations and the Wetlands Act, this project complies with everything, all your performance standards.
Thank you for the explanation, Brian. I raised the question simply because it appeared that the wall was encroaching on the neighbor's wall. And therefore, if things were being done under our jurisdiction, then the neighbor would have to be, if the wall encroaches on his property, the neighbor would have to be a party to the order of conditions, in my mind, because you'd be doing work on the neighbor's property without permission. That presents a problem for me. Now, if everybody's comfortable with this, let's move forward. It's late at night, but it's just, this is something that got triggered in my head. It's the same idea as I will raise the same question when you have homeowners who decide they want to put mitigation planning in the town road right of way. And it's not.
They're not correct, Mike.
So that's the analogy in my aged thinking at this point.
If I may
Just ask that
Sorry.
the applicant submit to us evidence that that wall predates the bylaw.
I'd be happy with that. Then it kicks that can down the road and we don't have to worry about it.
Mike, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Is that wall being worked on in this project?
No, not at all.
We have more chat, Mr. Chairman. Only a small portion of the wall was built in 1973. The Andrews added 22 feet to the wall. No one is looking for manipulation of the commission. This commission has the right and responsibility to act when approval is not sought or provided.
Okay. All right, we're not in land court, and that wall is not being addressed in this proposal, just to be clear.
Mr. Chairman, I just had one quick question, and maybe Mr. Borselli can answer it. When you had come in front of us for the dock, is that wall shown on that plan as well?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
All right, any other comments or questions? All right, what are we thinking?
Continue.
You want to continue?
We need them to submit the evidence that this wall was prior to the bylaw. I mean, it's not on their property, and that's sort of throws this, at least on the plan of record, shows it's not entirely on their property.
Yeah.
May I make an argument against the continuance, if I may?
Sure.
So I'll make a representation to the body. We have a copy of documents from the building department where the prior owner of Mr. Andrews' property requested the prior owner of the Sunquist property for permission to have the pool within 7 feet of the sideline property line. And we have a letter of permission confirming that, and it's all dated 1973. And so that's the evidence that we have with regard to the pool going in and the wall being built. And Mr. Andrews, I have not yet talked to these witnesses myself, but he has talked to prior owners of the property. Actually, I think it was the daughter of the prior owner, who also confirmed the pool was built in 1973. The wall is encroaching, that's admitted, but to Courtney's point, our claim is that it is there by right now. And so we claim the property right to have the wall there. The Sunquist dispute that. But as the chair said, the commission's not involved in property rights. And I would respectfully note that in your standard conditions, I think it's condition 4 or number 5, it says this order confers no property rights. I would respectfully submit that under the circumstances, a continuance is not necessary, but I would defer if Commissioner Harris feels that's important, then we will provide those documents that I've just referenced.
Was the letter of permission between the owners recorded and ongoing with the deed?
No, it's only in the building permit file. And I think it had something to do with that the pool was within the side yard setback. And the building commissioner at the time wanted a letter of permission from the neighbor, and that it's not recorded.
Mr. Chairman, I need to clarify something for the record. Who just asked the question if the wall was on the old plan?
I did, Maury Harlow Hawks.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to share the screen. Here's the as-built plan for the dock.
Oh, I'm wrong. It was a mistake just by my memory. I apologize for that. Evidently, that was built after I did my survey in my plan.
The survey was done in 2013.
Yeah.
So, and then there's one more chat. I'm assuming Attorney Gibretti means Attorney Wall can argue that in land court, there is no proof that the entire wall was built prior to 1973. Nothing is recorded regarding the wall, or the pool proves the wall was built after the dock plan.
So again, I don't want to get too far into an argument. Mr. Andrews bought the property in 2008. He'll tell you the wall was there when he bought it. I can't speak for Mr. Borselli, but if the project had to do with the dock, he might not have picked up all of the structures on the property because they weren't relevant to the application.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier. That timber wall was not masonry. My survey crew just may not have picked it up. I can't go back in time and give you a reason why. I showed you a photo that was from that vintage that showed the wall.
Mr. Chair, could I ask Jen a question?
Yep.
Jen, on that old plan, does it have a PLS stamp or just an engineering stamp?
Probably only an engineering stamp back then.
Mr. Borselli's on the a plan from 2009. This is why I like having my computer at my fingertips sometimes during these hearings. So Zoom isn't all that bad. This is an as-built in 2012, just Mr. Borselli's stamp more.
Thank you.
Welcome. I mean, I think that issue here is that 20-foot, 2-foot extension. So I think that's what the abutters are focused on. I mean, there's like, we see the picture of the brick wall, the mason, the other wall. So I guess the board wants the continuance to provide evidence, additional evidence of the wall. We're looking at a December 2nd date.
Do you feel we need that for this piece?
It's really up to the commission. I mean, that issue here is that is the wall extension. I believe it's probably starts at where that barbecue is. So the barbecue and the wall extension are what I think what the abutters is focused on.
Why,
Courtney?
yeah, I mean, if that extension was built after, more recently than 1973, then it falls under our jurisdiction, or at least 79, it falls under our jurisdiction. And now we back to the same conundrum about the property lines and the owners next door and all of that. So I think we need to find out. At least I would be more comfortable.
May I say something, Mr. Chair? And I know I'm repeating myself, but this is not us getting into property dispute. We have a plan of record that shows that extension outside their property line. Certainly, we have plans that are submitted to us and a neighbor will say it's inaccurate, but we just base our decision on the plan. We don't get into boundary disputes, but this is a little different. They're showing the wall outside their property line.
But they're being honest.
Well, that's nice.
The wall is outside the property line.
And they're not touching the wall.
Yeah, I don't see, I mean, I realize the wall might be outside the property line and that's how it's shown, but I don't understand what that has to do with the project that's in front of us right now.
Thank you. Steve, did you have something?
I just wanted to see if you put your hand up, if it made a difference.
We all saw you, Steve.
Didn't see your hand.
No, we saw you. Oh, Brian has a question.
If
What
I
are we
may-
looking for?
I think the point that Commissioner Gladfelter made is an excellent one. The wall does encroach over the property line, but there's no activity proposed on the other property. And usually that's when, to Courtney's point, if you're doing work on more than one property, you have to have the properties involved. And again, I know Attorney Gilberti is watching this and she's going to disagree with me, but I would suggest to the commission that that's exactly what they want you to order Mr. Andrews to do, is to take away that timber wall, because it takes away a settlement card in the land court case. They're trying to gain advantage here in the land court case. And I would respectfully suggest that you can grant this order of conditions without getting into this sticky wicket at all and leave it to the land court to decide.
I'd be satisfied if an order, if this was approved, the order specifically called out that extension and that we're not ratifying it by virtue of this order of conditions.
Well, exactly. And why, how could we possibly order it to be removed if it might not be on the property that's in front of us?
That's a good point, but I want to have a condition about.
That's fine, that you put
we're
that,
not ratifying it.
yeah, that you put that as a finding and a condition.
Right.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close this hearing and take it under advisement. Are there any other comments or questions? Good. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Gurney, aye.
Maury,
Solo Hawk's eye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
And I,
It is unanimous. This hearing is closed. Thank you, Mr. Borselli. Thank you, Mr. Wall.
Thank you, everyone, for
Commissioner.
your time
Thank
and
you,
your
staff.
patience. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too. Stay well.
All right. Next up are 3 continued hearings that are continued once again. Next item is hearings under enforcement order. We covered that already. So brings us to vote order of conditions. First item, Stephen Cohen, 2 Abby's Lane, Falmouth, Mass.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
the quorum is the 6 regular members plus Mark.
Excellent.
I'm getting there, Mr. Chairman. Hang on.
Peter and Pat can relax a little bit now.
Okay. 1 second, Mr. Chairman. Get this set. Okay, 2 Abby's Lane, that is the, basically, they're raising, as in lifting the house and repairing the foundation underneath. The only real concern the staff had was making sure that erosion control barrier is sufficient. Courtney, I think also someone mentioned having a pre-construction meeting with the contractor prior to, given that slope. And there should be a special condition that all the excavated material is removed from the site each day, because it really is a very tight lot. There's no room and a significant grade.
May I ask a question about that project?
Yes.
Where
Yes.
did they park?
I will find out during my pre-construction meeting.
All right, let me know. I
will.
couldn't find a driveway.
Okay.
Anybody have anything they want to add to it?
I'll move to accept the order as discussed.
Carlo Hawk, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept the order of conditions as discussed. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Gurney, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawk's eye.
Steve, Steve, I'm sorry.
and I,
Thank you. It is unanimous. We've accepted the order of conditions. Next up, William and Karen M. Curley, 40 Green Harbor Road, East Falmouth, Mass.
This was just that kind of porch vestibule and entryway with a small amount of mitigation plantings in the back. Our only question was the full walkway going to be removed. And I believe Mr. Booker, or I can't remember if it was Tom or Jeff that presented this one. I can't remember actually what they said, but
It was Tom. He said the only part that's being removed is the part underneath where they're building the little porch.
okay, perfect. Okay.
And the friendly lawn.
Concerns with the project.
So I'll make a motion to accept as discussed.
Bird, second.
Betsy, is the same quorum?
Yes,
Not
yes, it
here.
is. Yes, Jamie,
Thank you. All
but
right,
there's
we
gonna
have,
be a change coming.
huh?
The next one isn't the same quorum, just to let you
Yeah.
know.
Well, I'm going to ask you that first
Okay.
before I get cut off by someone else. All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the order of conditions as discussed. Betsy,
Gladfelter, I.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Renee, aye.
Maury,
Fellow Hawks, aye.
Steve.
Aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted the order of conditions. Next up, Cameron Kodaka, 13 Fells Road, Falmouth, Mass. Could I have the quorum, please?
The quorum is Courtney, Kevin, Betsy, Jamie, Steve, Peter, Mark.
So there are two parts to this project. One is the staircase. And so the staircase leading to the pond, that was pretty vetted through natural heritage and everything. And then the patio, which the staff has some questions and concerns on. Oh, and then the extensive invasive species removal and restoration of the coastal bank. I don't know how the board feels about this project, so you can have a discussion and then we can try to find a way through the order of conditions. I mean, the board can absolutely permit the restoration part of the coastal bank, the staircase, and if the board had some concerns with the patio, not permit that and then have them come back under an amendment after they work on the patio some more, if the board feels that's necessary. I wouldn't vote the whole entire, all three elements of the project down if you don't like the patio. We can remove that from the order of conditions if the board still has concerns with it. I don't know.
I don't have a problem with the patio.
Okay.
Anybody have any comments, questions? Come on.
You
Betsy,
guys
you're
all go with the patio? Okay.
I don't really like the patio the way it is. I mean, I agree with Jen that once you start putting furniture out there, there's not going to be grass growing between. So it's going to be more, it's not going to be impervious surface, but it's going to be surface that doesn't support vegetation. So I would rather have them come back with a redesigned patio that has the same square footage as what they're allowed to have there.
How do we pull that? Yeah.
So are you
Pardon?
suggesting a denial, Betsy?
No, not a denial. What Jen just said, they can come back.
In other words, we would condition it, approve the project except for the patio?
Yeah,
Okay,
So one condition would be to exclude it. Is that what you're saying?
yeah.
yeah, that, I mean, we're not saying they can't have a patio. We're just saying they can't have this kind of a patio because it sort of violates the idea of having any buffer there.
Okay, as long as we're not getting into designing it for them. Kevin, you had a
I don't want
question?
to design it.
I'm fine with the patio. You know, it seems as though they're really trying here to do something positive, especially with the invasives removal. So, you know, I think we're being a little strict trying to design the patio for them.
And didn't I hear you say something about
concern was-
grass pavers?
What was that, Jamie?
Didn't you say make a comment last week about grass pavers?
Yes, I mean, part of the staff's concern is we went out there with them, we tried. Our concern is this patio is increasing that impervious surface in your zone A and moving closer than the present primary structure. You know, I can't see, for the life of me, cannot visually reconcile what's there and what is being proposed. We did talk to them when we were on site about grass pavers, and this is what they came back with. I can't force them to use grass pavers, but like I said, I do have concerns that this is going to, you know, we're going to start seeing that creep again, where you guys hold a really hard line sometimes and it works. And I know you think you're being strict, but look at what we did in off of Seco Shores, where the people that were removing the pool, but their deck was encroaching into the zone A. I mean, it was a little different in this case. I mean, there are a lot of really good parts to this project, the restoration, you know, constructing the staircase so you're not using a path and that keeps eroding. But I do have concerns about the precedent that these little pavers are setting. So that's why the staff's coming out a little strongly on that one. I'm not by any means saying deny the whole project. I'm just saying there is a way that you could approve the restoration of the coastal bank, the construction of the staircase, which was, I think, what they originally wanted, and then just say, you know, we're not comfortable with the patio, come back to us.
Yeah, we're not designing it for them.
No, not at all.
And we don't buy it as it is.
But I mean, that's up to the board. I will write whatever you guys would like me to write. I'll never write that one again.
To Kevin's point, I mean, I certainly understand where you're coming from, Kevin, that, you know, given the whole project, it's a good project. And so, you know, I mean, if this is not a big deal, the problem is, as Jen points out, you know, we start approving these things and then it just comes back at us. And I think back to that project we had in Woods Hole where the bottom step, 4 feet by 1 foot, encroached within whatever it was. And I was on your side in this, and I thought, that's de minimis. We'll just, you know, why are we worrying about 4 square feet? But the problem is, once you do that, the next project becomes 6 square feet, and on it goes. And then you're caught. And so that's the part of it. I mean, I understand where you're from, but this is what bothers me. So that's why I think we take it out, let them come back with another solution, and they can do the rest of the project.
All right, what are you thinking?
I'll make a motion to approve the order as written with the exception of we're not going to approve the project as proposed.
Courtney,
Just one element, you mean?
Restate that.
What's that?
You need to restate that.
Okay, so I move that we approve the order as discussed, including a provision that we're not going to accept the proposed patio. Everything else is good.
That's better. Thank you.
That's better. I'll second that one.
Okay.
Okay, so that would be a separate, a condition that excludes the patio. Is that fair to say?
Yes, you've done that before. The one that's popping to my head, and it's much more complicated than this, is 160 Penzance Road. You approved a number of elements in that original plan and just said you can't build the pool. So, I mean, you know, they can come back. They can come back as an amendment when they redesign the patio. I'm very confident in that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the table that to issue an order of conditions for the project with a special condition that excludes the patio, subject to future amendment.
Yeah, sure.
That's what we're voting on.
Yep.
Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Third eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
Brian, I.
Mark,
Gurney, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Aye.
All right. We got through that. Next up, Scott Tynell, 163 Bay Road, North Falmouth, Mass. Do I have the quorum, Bets?
Yep. Okay. Courtney, Kevin, Betsy, Jamie, Steve, Peter, Mark.
Be easier if you just told me who wasn't on it.
Well, I could do that. Is that what you want?
Be a lot easier.
Lori and Pat are
Shellfish,
not
guys,
on.
focus on shellfish.
You know what it is? I have everything alphabetical.
Oh,
You know what I
Well, I
mean?
always give them in the same order too. You and I have to get together and
You know?
have the same order. I give them in the order where we used to sit, how we used to sit.
Just tell me who's not on it. That's easier.
All right.
So
Moving on.
This is for the installation of the proposed floating oyster bags on either side of the existing dock, the installation of the upweller in a cleared area, the buffer, and the intake pipes to support the upweller system. I think one of the only concerns we had, Mark had a good concern about the upweller pipe causing scouring. And then also with the bags, is there enough water on the bottom to support the bags? I think they can do like the little float stop things with the bags too, but then the oysters will be up in the air and they'll die. So I don't think that's gonna work.
Well, they put chocks on it, didn't they, Mark?
They said they put legs on it or.
Yeah, well, it was
Yeah.
in the design.
So it is in the design. I'm looking at it. You're right. Oyster bag suspension system.
The other thing Mark suggested, which I think you should put in a finding that there is an outflow area, but they only have have it to two pipes, and one was directed down and one was directed directly out, and they probably should both be directed out at a 60-degree angle or something.
Okay. So reorient the outflow pipe.
Yeah, so that it doesn't shoot downward.
Okay. Anything else, guys?
I think you can write into the thing that the bags just can't scour the bottom and let them worry about how it's done.
Yeah, that's good, along with,
And I would say the same thing with the pipes going out, the intake and the outtake, they can't squirt down into the sand, because you want those pipes to go in opposite directions so that you get fully good water coming back in. You're not recycling the old water.
but we have a plan that shows up, so the plan has to show just what we were discussing.
So you revised plan, Mark?
Pardon me?
Do you want a revised plan of the pipes?
I don't need it. Well, I think it should be on the plan. I don't think it's of such an extent that we have to. I think they should have a revised plan in your hands.
Okay, submitted to the staff. Okay.
With the sketch showing that it doesn't, one pipe doesn't go down.
Okay.
This one's on its 1-year anniversary, so we should end this on a positive note.
I have a very funny feeling, Mr. Chairman, that this is not the last time we will be seeing.
Yeah.
Sadly, you're correct.
I'll move to accept the order as discussed, including submitting a updated plan before construction.
Okay.
Anybody want to second it?
Walsh, second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to accept the order of conditions as discussed. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Ernie, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up, Frank and Donna Skelly, 369 Edgewater Drive West, East Falmouth, Mass.
That's the house going up on pilings, and then all the discussion around the enclosure and.
Hold on, please. Quorum,
Oh.
please. Betsy.
All right, now you have to bear with me now, because I have to figure out who's missing now. The people who are on it I'm gonna give you on it. Courtney, Kevin, Betsy, Jamie, Steve, Mark.
All right. Not Maury, Peter, or Pat.
No. Yeah,
I mean, huh?
either Peter or Pat.
That's what I said.
Yeah,
Maury.
either Peter or Pat. Not Maury.
I'm confused. So Moore is the only one not on the quorum.
Maury's the only one not on. Mark is on because he was put up to be on today. But then you have to pick between Peter and Pat.
Mr. Chairman, pick one. Pick a P, Peter or Pat.
Peter.
Got it. Okay. I think after the last discussion and all the number crunching in the sheds and Pat's quick math skills about the shed, I think you came up to 400 or just around there. So
398.
398, exactly.
yeah, I think so. You got to that number,
Yes.
and that's to just allow some sort of storage for something. I know there was questions about where did that number come from, and I remember having the discussion on Surf Drive, and that's, we kind of had them. We kept shrinking them and shrinking them and shrinking them, and
Right,
this
so-
a little bit of storage without having like 3,000 sheds on the property as well. So I think it was a good compromise, and
But I think we wanted a condition that there couldn't be whatever's coming in. I think it was 130 square foot shed cannot be
rebuilt. Yeah.
So
And they accepted that.
they can't put
Yes.
storage sheds on the property.
Correct. No more sheds on the property.
So I'll make a motion to accept as discussed.
Bird, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept the order of conditions as discussed. Anybody have anything else you want to add?
Yes, I guess I missed the statement where we said, how many square feet are we going to accept within the enclosed storage area?
398.
Thank you.
All right. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Ernie, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve. It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up, Thomas J. Scarduzio, trustee, number 0, /192 Meadow Neck Road, Assessors Map, Plat Number 31, Parcel Lot Number 04-005-002C, East Falmouth, Mass.
This is the proposed house.
Hold on,
Wait a second,
forum, please.
my turn next. Courtney, Peter, and Mark are not on this one.
I like the way you did that.
Thank you, Jamie. I'll get on top of it next time. So this
Jen,
means
you're up.
This is the house with the pickleball court.
with the pickleball
Building
court.
setbacks, the staff had no concerns. We went out with BSC and worked with them to during their design process.
I thought they did a pretty good job of keeping it restricted. All right, anybody have anything special they want to see in this?
I remember we had something with a pickleball court, but I can't remember anything else about this project. Somebody refresh my mind. Along what?
It's a long house.
All the way up as far back in the lot as you could possibly go and still
Long,
have a
narrow
little
house.
setback.
Oh, so they just had a little section for a pickleball court. Okay.
Correct.
I accept
We-
the order as discussed, Harlow Hawks.
Bird second.
Courtney, you can't, you're not on it.
Oh.
Gladfelder second.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the order conditions as discussed. We have a DEP number on this, correct?
Correct.
Yes, we
Yeah.
do. You need it?
No, I had a note that we didn't have it a while ago and I just wanted to double check.
Yeah, I have it written in.
Yeah. All
We
right, Betsy,
continued it for that.
Gladfelder, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Harlow Hawks, aye.
Pat,
Cameras, aye.
Steve.
That's right.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up, other business. Discuss diversity and inclusion statement.
Yes, I sent you all a copy of a statement that the 300 committee, along with the Buzzards Bay Coalition, Orinda Wildlife Sanctuary, the Native Land Conservancy, Oyster Pond Environmental Trust, Salt Pond Area Bird Sanctuaries, and the Falmouth Conservation Department have been working on. The 300 committee invited all of the land trusts and all of the people involved with open space in the town of Falmouth to come together and kind of brainstorm and talk about how we can support our community. And we've come up with, and this has been vetted by all of the different staff of the different organizations on issuing a joint statement on diversity and inclusion to, to be displayed on websites and used in their promotional and programming materials. So there has been many different versions of this statement, and I think this one just is simply stated and nicely done. So I'm asking the board if you would like to be part of this statement. It'll have all of the organizations' names attached to it.
Is this, the question is, has this version of the statement that you sent around been adopted by all these other organizations?
Yes.
Thank you.
Everybody had a chance to read it?
Yep.
Pretty short and sweet. All right, what are you thinking?
I'll move. I'll
Good.
move.
Go on, Courtney.
Okay. Go ahead.
You go ahead.
All right, I'll move that we accept this statement and adopt it.
All right,
Harlow Hawks, second. but I have to say, I never knew we had a problem, so whatever.
Yeah.
Well,
We're just trying to be politically correct.
I want to comment on that. It's easy to say that if you've never been excluded from anything. But I can tell you someone my age who is a marine scientist, that now there are more women marine scientists than there are men marine scientists. But I was on numerable grant application boards where I was the only woman. Now, I will admit, I did not mind being the only woman on these boards. But the fact is, and I never felt not accepted by the group that I was with. But I can tell you, I know a lot of women who were in situations who didn't feel accepted. And so even though you think, well, we're beyond that in our society, everybody should recognize that, we're really not beyond that. And it never hurts to remind people of the fact that we should be inclusive of all, especially in these public lands.
All right, I think you went a little deeper than I was getting at. I was just saying our public lands have always been open. I wasn't getting into discrimination at your meeting. So I make a motion to accept it. Hawks. Seconded it.
So we have a motion and a second to endorse this letter. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Gurney,
Mark,
aye.
thank you. Maury,
Hello, Hawks, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve. It is unanimous. Thank you. Now, only a few more things. No.
People.
Jamie, didn't you want to discuss, aren't we discussing revisions of regulations now? Aren't we starting that discussion?
Right now,
Yeah.
Come on, who's got the good motion?
Make a
make-
motion to adjourn.
Walsh,
Hawks.
second.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn in a second. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Gurney, aye.
Maury,
Hello, Hawks, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. IT, you can stop recording. Thank you.